Welcome to Books in the Freezer, a podcast dedicated to the deliciously disturbing world of horror fiction. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today I am joined by Anna Dupre of Anna Rose Reads. And we are going to try and tackle talking about our favorite things that came out this year. Kind of a best of, if you will. Best of 2025. This is one of my favorite episodes to do. And I am very excited because there's a lot of books to talk about. This was yet another banner year for horror.
Yeah. It was a little overwhelming, some may say. There was a lot of books, and I feel like a lot of them fell through the cracks for me. And luckily, you read a lot of the ones that I was like, dang, I want to get to those. So, hooray for
Okay,
that.
good. Yeah. You were like a reading machine, I feel like. I feel like, yes, because I feel like you would talk to me and be like, starting this, sending me a picture of a book. And then I would log into Instagram, and the first thing I see is like, review by Anna Rose Reads. And I'm like, how? How did that happen?
Well, I hate to say this, but if that did happen, it's just a testament to how much I love that book because I have like this really compulsive thing where as soon as I'm done, if I am like dying to talk about it and like not a lot of other people have read it yet, then I'm like, I gotta write about it. I gotta post it. I gotta do whatever. So that did happen sometimes, I won't lie. But it was actually a slower year for me than normal. So
I kind of felt that way too. I have a lot of ebbs and flows in my reading. I am very subject to a reading slump. I feel like there's so many people I follow who just feel like their reading is always consistent. And I don't have that. I have a reading
no.
mojo, and sometimes I pick up a book and my brain can't handle it. And I kind of go through a general burnout content wise post October where I essentially fall into like a horror nap. And I'm like, I can't do anything.
See, that happened for me like in January through like mid-February this year. Like
Really?
we got through the holidays. And then, that was also like the same time that like I had changed jobs and careers, and like there was like a lot of other outside stuff going on. So I'm pretty sure that's what contributed to it.
Yeah.
But it just took me a minute to like get into the flow of things, and it like I felt like at the beginning of the year I was never going to get out of that slump. I just did not. I felt like I was stuck in goo, and I was running in place. But eventually I did get out of it, and it was all fine. But yeah, no, that happened to me at the beginning of the year. And like I've had little random like little slumps throughout the year, but that was like the big one that I was like, can I read the way I used to anymore? You know.
Okay, that happened. Yes. I understand that feeling completely. Every time I go through a slump, I'm like, have I been a fraud? Maybe I've never liked reading.
Is this it?
Maybe
Yeah.
I've been lying to myself and to everyone.
Am
This
I a
hasn't been.
performance artist? Yeah.
And then, that book finds you where you pick it up on a whim and you just start reading. And then before you know it, you're 100 pages in and you're like, this is what it is. I do love
Yes.
reading. Thank you.
Yes, yes, no. But there is always that moment of doubt where it's like, am I a sham? Has these like past 3 or 4 years been a total fraud? Is this the new me now? And you're like, I don't know what to do with this, but it's fine. We're all fine. We're fine.
We're fine. We're here. We're still reading. As I mentioned up top, I just feel like we have had so many consecutive years of good horror.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if I come off as insincere in these best of where I'm like, another great year, but I can't help it. It is another great year. Okay.
Yeah.
Even that's what they're saying in
when
the
you get
streets.
when you get a book like Sarah Gailey's Spread Me, but then also like Stephen Graham Jones's The Buffalo Hunter, like that is the full spectrum of horror in my opinion, and you
Yeah.
cannot help but be excited about that in like one calendar year, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, like a lot of big books dropped this year.
That's true
But
too,
I
yeah.
wanted to ask, did you notice any trends?
The only like and I've talked about this before, but like the weird thing that happened this year was like so many releases happened in October.
And
And like
September.
and September. Well, yeah, it was the September and then like the 2 month block there. And I understand that because I know for horror a big marketing appeal is like spooky season. Like everybody wants their spooky reads. Look, this just came out for this. So I understand like the business marketing appeal, but it was just very overwhelming and I like literally could not get to everything. Like despite my best planning and efforts, it just could not be done. So that was like a
It's enough
trend.
slices.
Yes, yes. That was a trend that I noticed like publishing wise. As far as the genre goes, I mean, I think that I feel like cannibalism's on the rise, which I'm okay with. I'm like, yes, that's, that's cool. I like it more for the metaphor, less so for the gore factor, but like so many people have pulled it off so well to like
Yeah,
explore issues so well. So I'm always here for that. Um I don't know. I do feel like we're kind of getting into the niche horror subgenre place. Like, for instance, Buffalo Hunter x Hunter is like very historical horror.
yes,
Um, so like that was really cool to read that. But then, like I also mentioned Sarah Gailey, like that is also like very reminiscent of the thing, but it was fun and it was sexy and ooey and gooey. Like it was a very specific kind of read. You know what I mean? I feel like everybody's exploring their niches very well, and that's really fun to see too. Because I mean, there's nothing. Listen, there's nothing like seeing an artist go like full tilt into the thing that they're like most passionate about.
yeah,
That's super fun to read and to like just live in their world while they do that.
yes, absolutely. Seconding all that. I think we are also getting into a time where I think Weird Girl Lit is having a moment and it is bleeding
Hell
into
yeah.
horror, and I am here for it. I have long said, you can go back and listen, okay? Check that Getty. That I love a weird, delusional protagonist. I did add that into the reading challenge this year. Read
Oh
something with
yeah.
an unhinged narrator. And you know what? There are so many things that came out this year that are coming out next year that fit in that box. Get in that delusional, weird girl lit
Okay, but
moment.
like let me spin this side of it though. And this might be more telling about me. Is like the books that we're kind of throwing in that category, once I read them, I'm like that's not that weird at all. Like I get it. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I never like really question. I'm like, yeah, she's just like trying to make ends meet, or yeah, she's got like real bad trauma that she's just trying to figure out. Like makes sense to me, like
You know what? Maybe his eyeballs would taste good. Who
I
am I to
think that
judge?
his eyeballs would taste great actually. So no, I think yeah, I don't know, maybe it's for me it's never as weird as it used to seem. I don't know what that says
Yeah.
about me as a reader anymore.
Well, horror is an exercise in empathy, and I think putting in the weird girl books, like blending into horror, there are going to be moments where you're like, yeah, that seems reasonable. I don't know.
Yeah.
If I got pushed to that place, maybe I would too, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you feel the same because I was a little bit like, "Huh, what does this say about me?"
Yeah, coming in on 2026, do you have any personal changes you're going to implement, different things you're trying to focus on, any like reading resolutions, if you will?
Um, so speaking of like this kind of bleeds into the trend talk. I do think like looking at it, shout out Emily C. Hughes as always at the big list of shit that's coming out this year.
Our horror weenie queen, of course.
Yes, God, we love her. So looking at her list of what's coming out in 2026, I do like still the big names are putting out books. Like Paul Tremblay still has something that he's putting out, like our pillars of horror, still are publishing things. But I do think it's a little bit of a quieter year for our established authors. Like for instance, I don't think that there's a brand new Stephen Graham Jones. I think Nat Cassidy's year off is this year until his next book comes out. Like it seems a little bit quiet. So there's a lot more room for newer voices to come out
Mhm.
and shine. And I am really, really pumped about that. I have a few in my inbox and on NetGalley that I'm like really pumped to get to of like people I've never heard of before. And in fact, I already read For Human Use by Sarah G. Pierce, and I was obsessed with that book. And it's a debut. And like I don't know. I just like I think this year what I'm trying to do is I'm genuinely trying to be a little bit more cognizant of my NetGalley usage and like intentional with what I'm picking. But also like trying to spread my horizons a little bit, try and take in some new authors, some new things to just, diversify my TBR. Because I do feel like this last year was like everybody that we knew and we have loved as an established author had something come out, which is a great thing. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that. But I think it's also really cool when we get room for some new voices in there too.
Absolutely. And I feel similarly to where this year, like you said, a lot of the big people who we're excited about were putting out big books. And, when you're in this community, you feel a pressure to read these books when they come out so you can
Yeah.
participate in the conversation and, have opinions about the book. And this next year, I mean, I'm still going to read new releases, but I'm not going to put that pressure on
Yeah.
myself, and I am going to allow myself to pick up more backlist books and pick up non-horror books, because I find when I do that too, I come back with more of a renewed interest in horror, like
Yeah.
when I allow myself to take mentally a step back
Yeah.
into other things.
Well, we've talked about it before, and like I've talked about it in other places too, but the burnout of like I call it assigned reading. It's not assigned or required reading, but it's the deadline. There is a deadline,
Yes.
right? There's like the invisible implied pressure of like, yes, I should get this read and get my opinion out there about it to be part of the moment or to be part of the conversation, to be relevant, or to like if it's going to, help promote this book and get the book in the right reader's hands, like we want to be part of that too, right? Like that's the whole reason of, why we
Yeah.
do a lot of this. So,
We do, and I mean, and sometimes we're working with publicists, and we have to get coverage
yeah.
out by a certain date, and I mean, there's stuff on the back end where we have to, schedule our reading around that, and we love it. We love doing that,
Right.
but,
This is very
it's
much like
nice
a
to have.
champagne yeah, it's a champagne problem to talk about this, don't get me wrong, but still, like, finding the creative, like, energy to, like, keep trucking whenever you're just, like, going down a list sometimes, especially, like, if the read doesn't hit super well, I find that that kind of just can kinda throw you off to whereas, like, whenever you're mood reading and you're just picking up whatever the hell you want, it's like,
Yeah.
any slump is your own fault at that point, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I agree. Well, we have a ton of books to talk about
Oh my
in
god,
a
yeah.
lot of different categories, so I feel like we need to just dive
Yeah,
right in.
I'm ready, I'm ready.
Um, Starting it off with short story collections. I did not read a ton of new release short story collections, but of the ones I read, I have to say, loved Teenage Girls Can Be Demons by Hailey Piper, our teen girl rage queen. So these are stories with teen girl protagonists with kind of a consistent coming of rage, female rage thread throughout. And fans of Hailey Piper, myself included, were very excited to have the Benny Rose novella in a collection out for new fans.
Yeah, so this is one that actually fell through the cracks for me, and I'm super pissed about it because you were talking about it, and I really wanted to get to it as well. But I mean, it's obviously still going to be there for me whenever. But I don't know that I've read a lot of Haley's short fiction. So I think in particular with it being something new, like a new formatting for me, the short fiction and a like subgenre or subject matter that is really interesting to me, this could like really be the book for me. And I need to like get my ass into gear and just like get on it.
But it'll find you at the right moment, and you'll
Yeah.
read it and you'll be like, this is exactly what I needed.
And then you're gonna
This was chicken soup for the soul for
yeah, and then you're
me.
gonna open Instagram and I'm gonna be like, review for Teenage Girls Can Be Demons. So my this is like one of my top picks for the year. Just like not even because it's a short story collection in general. It is The Poorly Made and Other Things by Sam Rebelein. This collection is just like bonkers. Like there's no like Sam can take on so many different voices and themes and tones. Like this collection is just the best showcase of his talent. And there's like a cohesive thread that runs through it. So it's not just, like all these random stories. Like there is some structure to it as well. And it ties in to the greater Edenville universe that he's created with the Edenville novel. And now he also had Galloway's Gospel come out, which is all kind of related in the same universe, and we love that. Like I love that he's done that. I think it's super
Mhm.
smart. But the collection, man, like I think it's called My Name is Ellie, is a short story that I will not forget anytime soon. I just yeah, it's a hard hitter, man. I don't know. I think about that collection often, and mostly just because of like how well Sam does a little bit of everything. You know,
Yeah.
it's just it hits on so many different notes. So that's The Poorly Made and Other Things by Sam Rebelein.
I read that on your recommendation.
Yeah, I don't think
And
I shut up about that one either.
and you're right. The My Name is Ellie story was a standout. And I think I wasn't sure what to think of it when I started it because I listened to it on audio and I was like going on my little hot girl walk. People
Yep.
don't say that anymore, but I'm a cringe millennial, so I will. On my little hot girl walk, with my over ear headphones, and it started, and I was like, Anna recommended this, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know what I think of it. Luckily, I trusted the process. I gave it time, and I got to the end, and I was like, I love that big WTF energy. Obsessed.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I remember you saying that. I'm like, please just like keep going. Like, please just like, just please stick with it. I promise it's worth it. And then it was. I was like, whew. Okay. All right.
And then I had two backlist short story collections that I really loved this year. One was Mystery Lights by Lena Valencia. I mentioned this on my desert horror episode I did with Brian McCauley. The majority of these stories take place in the desert and kind of center around like anxieties of like womanhood and girlhood. And some of them are exploring that possibly through a supernatural lens, but not all of them do. Like the first story is like a writer who rents like an Airbnb in the desert to like hunker down and get her slasher script done. And she goes on a walk and is immediately followed by like a pack of stray dogs. And she's like, oh no. And yeah, things are getting really dicey. And she makes it out to the road and hitchhikes and finds herself in the passenger seat of a guy's truck. And pretty soon she's like, oh no, where was I in more danger? Uh
The
oh.
bear or the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's stories about that, but some stories have this like possible UFO. Some stories have this like a girl that got lost on a family vacation and was like underground in a cave and met some creatures there and maybe wants to go back. Um so they all like explore these kind of like fun kind of like supernatural like cryptid elements, but that's not the focus of the story. The focus of the
Yeah.
story is like the anxieties of being a woman, which
See,
I
so
really
like,
liked.
yeah, so you've recommended this one, and Neil has recommended this one, and I have a copy of it. I need to read it. The cover of it is gorgeous.
Oh my
It is
god.
like so striking. But this exactly like this thing that you're describing is like exactly my bread and butter. So another one that I feel like I just really need to get myself to read it. But everything that you're saying about all of these stories just sounds absolutely sublime. And I need them desperately in my life.
You do. And you're right. The cover is gorgeous. The second backlist title that I read was called You Glow in the Dark by Liliana Colanzi. She's a Bolivian writer. And I picked this up at Barnes and Noble just on a whim because it was
Mhm.
tiny. It's like 100 pages. And I ended up really loving this. On the back, it's described as Andean cyberpunk, which like I wasn't sure what that was going to look like, but then I read the story Atomito,
Mhm.
which is following kind of like this village kind of living where this nuclear reactor site was. And it's cyberpunk, so it's kind of like weirdly dystopian, like in contrast with this like rural setting. It was really fascinating, just following the different people connected to this. And it almost had, I don't play Fallout, but it kind of had this like
Oh yeah.
Fallout quality to it where the like mascot for this facility was this kind of, the way I described it, I pictured like Big Boy, like Bob's Big
Yeah.
Boy. And he's called like Atomito, and just kind of like the dystopian like thing of like seeing this like faded mascot everywhere. Like with this setting was really cool. I really enjoyed this book.
That sounds interesting. Did you watch the Fallout series even if you didn't play the games?
I did not.
Okay.
Is it good?
Yeah, I enjoyed it and I didn't really play the games either. I think TJ might have and he like provided some context when we were watching it. But No, I think that that sounds very on brand for like that sounds like a good comp for what you're describing. I mean, I obviously haven't read this collection, but that sounds like a very good comp. I'm gonna break our little rule a
Yeah.
little bit. I'm gonna talk about two anthologies that I felt like. Well, actually, I have one more collection that I just remembered about. Oddbody by Rose Keating was like one of the ickiest, gooeyest um collections that I've ever read, and it was like very disorienting, but like thematically it felt so on par with the female experience. With like there's like literally I think a story that is about this woman who like keeps her dad in her bathroom, and I mean spoiler, he's a worm. But like it kind of unpacks like her caretaking trauma with her dad through this like very strange lens. And all of her stories are kind of like that, and a lot of them have to do with the female experience, which are really really interesting. Like I said, very icky and gooey, like a very icky and gooey collection. It felt like it had texture to it, so that was a cool one.
Okay, immediately going on the TBR, and again, with this weird girl moment, like
Yeah, no, it
letting women
falls.
be gross.
Yeah, it falls into that perfectly, and I think the cover of it's pretty good too. It has
Yes,
like
it is.
yeah, the like blossoming sheep plants is I think one of them. And I think that there's a different cover for the UK. But anyway, so that's one other collection that I just remembered that I read that I enjoyed. So to kind of break the category, I'm going to go into some anthologies that I really enjoyed. One was the Punk Goes Horror anthology that came out with Trueborn Press. I had so much fun with that. Brian McCauley's story in that I kind of think about, I don't want to say on the reg, but it comes at like it's a I when I go to clean out my shower drain, if you read it, you'll know. I think about it. I'm like, ugh, Brian. Okay. Um, just the way that everybody like interpreted the songs that they picked, like Liz Karen. Every time I hear that song that she picked, I think about her story, and I never would have like put those two together, but it just makes so much sense whenever she talked about it and like when you read deeper into it. Rachel's story was also great in that one. There was another really really good one in there that
I
I'm
really
deleting
liked
me right
Wendy
now.
Dalrymple's too.
Yes, that was the
Her
other one
plural.
that has yes, I freaking loved that story. That was one of my favorites. It's just a fun collection. I love the premise of it because like especially when you a music-based anthology, everybody listens to music and takes something different from it. So I feel like this is the best way to like exemplify like what songs mean to people and like let them run wild with it. It's very fun. Um, and then the other one, I feel like the big elephant in the room that we need to address is the Stephen King Stand anthology, The End of the World as We Know It.
Yeah.
It did give me some of my favorite short stories that I've read this year, like Jonathan Jantz's Lenora, Sarah Langen's story, Amakatsu's story. Um, there were some heavy hitters in that one that I just thought, even like outside the world of the stand, I just thought that they were really good stories. So yeah, those are my picks. Breaking the rules a little bit already with category one.
No, I mean that falls under
Yeah.
short story collection, so we'll count it. And you know what? Two valid additions that needed to be said.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
Okay. Next category, favorite graphic novel. I will be yes anding one of your picks, but one
Okay.
of the backlist books I picked up was A Guest in the House by E.M. Carroll. I don't know if you've ever read any of her
No,
graphic
I have
novels. If you
not.
read like I think it's called A House in the Woods. She has a really striking art style. Like it's mostly black and white with like it'll be like splashes of like red and blue. Like she
Oh,
uses
that's interesting.
color very sparingly. And this is about a woman who has married a widower with a child, and he seems to be like really cagey about what happened to his previous wife. And so she's, isolated in a lot of ways, but also kind of trying to figure out if like does something happen to her? Like, am I in
Yeah.
danger?
Am I next? Yeah.
Am I next? I will say this one goes in a weird direction,
Okay,
but
but I love that though because
yeah.
I will say like that narrative. And this is gonna be like my little rant soapbox because of like Colleen Hoover's Verity. Everybody has like hopped on that. Can we trust the husband in the house that we're already living in? kind of narrative. And I like it when we break the norm and we're like, nope, fuck it. We're going full tilt all the way into the unexpected because who else is going to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was A Guest in the House by E.M. Carroll that was published in 2023.
I need to pick that one up. That's a good rec. Okay. This is going to be I think your yes and pick if I'm reading the room correctly. So Saint Catherine by Anna Meyer came out this year, and I need to do a better job of reading more graphic novels in horror, but this is like one of the first ones that I've read. And one, it's a beautiful book, don't get me wrong, like the art style and like the the imagery that Anna provides to like the crux of this novel is so stunning. So basically it's about this girl who is like kind of wrestling with her relationship with Catholicism, but she's never missed a single Sunday service. Like, she's always gone to mass. And then one day she does. She decides to not go to mass, and then weird things start happening and she starts to believe that she is possessed by a demon, and then she's like really just like living in guilt, living in shame, like trying to puzzle out where she goes from here and what she does. Um, this is a really, really good book. It's just really, really good. There's like I can't say too much without spoiling it, but there is an illustration, I'd say in the last like fourth of the book, I think that you and I talked about that both when we saw it, we just immediately started like bawling. There's so much that Anna does so cleverly with this book around these feelings that we feel that don't really have a shape, whether it's like shame or guilt, and kind of giving them an image and with this graphic novel. So yeah, that is Saint Catherine by Anna Meyer.
Yes, hard. Yes, ending. And I think I posted on my Instagram story that I got to a certain point and I was crying. And everyone who had read the book got in my DMs and was like, "Was it this part?"
Yeah.
Like, yes, we all knew. Um, you are on the money. It is so cleverly told. Like when you get to the end, you're like, "Ah, I love that. That is perfect. That is the perfect way to tell this story." But I think anyone who grew up a certain way and is navigating that journey into becoming an adult and making decisions for yourself and deciding what to keep, what to let go of, what doesn't serve you anymore, and navigating your relationship with guilt and expectation and becoming your own person, I think will relate to this.
Yeah, it's also got like a strong focus on like identity, like who am I
Yes.
now, who was I before, and like what does it say about me that I want to be this person. Yeah, it definitely hits for the Catholic kids, but any kind of like religious struggle, I would say, or even like it can be secular, it doesn't have to be, but like you said, just anytime that you experience that like deep rooted shame or guilt and you're wrestling with it, I feel like this book just really takes a look at that in a really, really cool way. So that's my pick. The other one that I have, it's called, but I think that this came out last year. So I think this is a backlist pick, but it's called Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Hogarth. Um, you just need to go in not knowing anything. It looks so cute and adorable. It's a bunch of woodland critters. It looks like Animal Crossing. They all live in town. They all have jobs, except that there's a serial killer on the loose. Um, and that's all I'll say.
Oh my god. Yeah, you say Animal Crossing. I said like a Richard Scary. Like this is a cute
Yeah.
little small town where like the pig is like the mailman and like
Yeah. Um there I'll just say this. There's one I'm giggling over because it's so absurd. There's an illustration of one of the townspeople. I believe it might have been it was some kind of bird. But like there was an illustration of him being dismembered. And I remember being like, "Oh my god!" Like, "Oh, oh, okay." It's such a juxtaposition of like cute and cuddly and cozy, and then like the comp for Richard Scarry meets Dexter, I think is very apt.
yes,
But it's also a lot of fun. It's a really good time. So
it is a really good time. But you're right. It's like in the first installment of it, I think you get like 3 pages in before you get like, what? What is going on here?
yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I had just like picked up the bound collection
Okay.
of all the issues. So like luckily it ran pretty quick and I wasn't like waiting on the next issue because then I would be pissed, I'm not gonna lie. Because they leave you on some cliffhangers. Like
Yeah. I think I did it on Hoopla, so I was worried I was gonna burn through all my like borrows for the month.
yeah, no, that tracks. That very much tracks. But yeah, that's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Hogarth.
All right. Well, next category is favorite young adult novel. Um, I have to say, I really enjoyed Showstopper by Lily Anderson. Shout out to Adam at the Haunted Bookstagram for telling me she had a book coming out because I didn't know until he was like, "You need to know this." And as someone who adores Undead Girl Gang, I did in fact need to know this because this is a slasher set at a theater camp. Okay,
This is like it was written for you,
it
I
was
think.
written for me. So we are following Faye, who is a going to be or who is a senior, and so this is like her last summer at this theater camp, and she and her group of friends have always gone to this theater camp. This is their year. They are already kind of like a main group, like all of them tend to get cast in major roles. Faye, going into her senior year, does want to do a pivot. She is fat and half Latina. And they're doing like Archie, and she's like, I know my personality. Like, I give kind of like a good girl vibe. They're gonna put me as Betty. I am auditioning for Veronica. Okay, rebrand. I want to be Veronica. There's a few wrenches that get thrown in her plans though, and those wrenches are random murders that start happening around the camp. I do love that the parents in this are texting her and are immediately like, I'm sorry, what happened? Get your ass home. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Mom, I'll be fine. Don't you worry about me. Like, all
Oh
that's
my
done
god,
now.
wait. So this is so much better than like the 2000 slashers trope. But like, oh, the parents like, oh, she'll be fine, and the kids are like, please come get me. It's like, no, we already paid the deposit.
And she's like, you get your butt home right now. She says, Mom, it's my senior year. It's my final year at theater camp, and I don't care. Nothing is stopping me. I refuse to go home. Um, so I had a lot of fun with that. And then probably not horror, but a standout YA book for me anyway. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins.
I need to read it. I need to read it. But
You know
everybody
what?
says that that they're so upset when they do.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
Suzanne Collins saw all of you making those thirst traps of young snow, and she needed to hose water on you and show you what this man was capable of. Okay. She said, enough.
Look, I
So
respect it. I respect it so much.
this is Haymitch's story. So if you've seen the movie, this is like Woody Harrelson's character, which like if you think about who Haymitch is when we see him, he is like a alcoholic shell of a man. And you know that he is a mentor to Peeta and Katniss because he won his Hunger Games. How does one win the Hunger Games? Being the last one standing. And
Killing everybody.
so you start this book with that knowledge. Like, oh man, all these people that we are meeting, all these like cute, adorable young tributes with their wide eyes. Don't get too attached. I feel like Suzanne Collins knows how to read a room and she can read a moment. Like when we see Katniss and Peeta, I want to say it's like the 74th Hunger Games.
It's been so long since I've read. I
Yeah.
honestly kind of want to reread them and then read the other two that have come out because I haven't
Yeah.
read anything that's come out after the original three.
Yeah. Um, I think so because then the one after it is the quarter quell. Um, but this idea that like all these revolutions have so much built up momentum. There is so much that like in the moment you're in, you don't see. You don't see all the attempts that were made before, like all the little progress that was made. And I mean when we meet Haymitch, he is a certain way and we get to see what happened to him. because, you know, when we see him, we see that he was also ready to take this all down, and the way that these systems can absolutely diminish someone's hope.
It's so upsetting because, like, you want, I don't want to say you want to judge Haymitch, but like, you feel a certain way about him for 3 books when you read The Hunger Games. And like, obviously, you can always get backstory for, he's not a villain per se, but he's just like a very flawed man, like, very struggling man. And then to see, and I haven't read it yet, but the way that you talk about it, to see like systemically how he's like picked apart and like dismantled is so upsetting. And it reminds me very much of like a Shirley Jackson approach of like, I'm gonna ruin your day and I'm gonna ruin this character. And it sounds like that's kind of like what Suzanne Collins does. It's like, well, you're gonna see why he needs to drink so much because he went through some really terrible things. The other thing about all this that I think is really great is that, like you said, she can read a moment really well. And so I do love that the fan cams were just out of control. They were just a lot. I was seeing them and I was like, do these people remember what these books were about? And like, listen, I was a diehard Hunger Games fan. Like, I had the pen, I had like a jacket like Katniss's. I took up archery for a minute.
No.
Like, I was deep in it. But
You
then, like, as
know,
I got,
I
as
kind of see the horse girl trajectory, to be
okay,
honest.
look, we don't need to go that far, okay? But yeah, no, that was a that was a very clear pipeline, okay? Um, but no, I just like to see, and it happens so often. It's just like to see these like very vile men. It's always kind of men who get the fan cam treatment. You know, it's just it's a little dystopian to live in a place like that.
It is. And I will admit, it kept me from wanting to read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So I did
Yeah.
not. And I don't know, story wise, you don't really need to read it going into this, I don't think.
Hmm.
Although I did hear, you know, it's Suzanne Collins. She's not writing like a full redemption story
Yeah.
for, you know, Snow.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Well,
fan cam girlies were just out of control.
look, I have been known to enjoy a fan cam in my day, but it's mostly for morally okay characters. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, I need to do a better job of reading more young adult horror. Um, but I'm gonna take this moment to highlight one of the YA novels I did read this year. And it was 100%. This is not I didn't get paid. This is not Stephanie didn't put me up to this. For Stephanie's Fear Street series that she's doing on Patreon, I read The Overnight by R.L. Stine, and I had the best fucking time. Nobody writes like R.L. Stine, baby, okay? You want just unhinged, nonsensical problems that are not problems. He will manufacture a problem from thin air, okay? You want which do you think that's a gun? No, it's not a gun. It's a Nerf blaster or something. I don't even remember what it's called. Um Listen, just if you want, this is something that actually pulled me out of a slump. So like, genuinely, this is a highlight of the year for me. If you want something that is like very quick and easy to read but is wildly entertaining and you're not really worried about like plot integrity, just read an R.L. Stein book. Read a Fear Street book, okay? The Overnight is about these kids who want to go on this camping trip. Their teacher who's going to take them to go camping is like, "Oh no, I can't anymore. I have like an ill relative or something like that." And they're like, "We're going to go anyway." And guess what the island's name is? Fear Island. You got that right. They go. They end up running into like these con men, basically, these felons of some sort in the woods. And somebody allegedly, things go sideways, somebody allegedly dies. And then it just goes from there. These kids are living in fear. There's strange knocks on the door. There's weird earrings. There's Nerf blasters. There's a little bit of everything. And I think that you all need to read an R.L. Stein book at least once a year to invigorate your reading this way.
I mean, thank you so much. And I do have to second that. Yeah, Fear Street was actually a big chunk of my reading. I read like 12 or 13
I do want to take
Fear
a
Street
minute
books.
and ask you, like, how is that experience? And like, what do you think about reading? Like, I want to hear from you about that Fear Street reading experience.
It's been really fun. They are so good at pulling you out of a slump because they're all under like 170 pages. They all are fast paced. And R.L. Stein has a knack for taking stories in a place where I was like, where did this come from? Truly. Yeah, I'll name off some of my favorites, some of my standouts. I
Yes, please
think
do.
I had a ton of fun with the Halloween party. I got to say, favorite villain in Fear Street so far is the Halloween party. I also really enjoyed Haunted because they don't tend to lean supernatural, but I tend to get pretty excited when they do. And the twist in Haunted, Christopher Nolan, watch your back. Like
We need
reheating R.L. Stein's nachos. Okay.
we need okay, hear me out. We need an R.L. Stein adaptation shot on 70 millimeter film. The way that Christopher Nolan intended.
Absolutely. I also enjoyed the Sleepwalker. That was fun. And it's also really fun when you read them all in order, seeing callbacks to
Oh yeah, like the
different
Easter eggs.
novels.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing the Easter eggs. Like people would be like, Fear Street. I know a friend who like blah 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 happened to. And Ricky shows up in the Halloween party. He's one of the people at the party. And he's doing like two truths and a lie. And he's like,
Oh.
I stayed at Fear Island and something crazy happened, you know.
Oh,
You
Ricky.
did not like Ricky. I have empathy for Ricky. Everyone knows like that obnoxious, like tries too hard, like class clown person that gets on everyone's nerves. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Wait, hold on. Did you watch all of Stranger Things? Or no, you didn't?
No.
You don't know who? Okay, well, there's a character called Dipshit Derek, and Dipshit Derek reminds me of uh, what's his name? Ricky.
Ricky Shore.
Yeah, Ricky Shore.
I do love the Fear Streets that end on like a sitcom zinger. Just like, I don't want to go camping again anytime soon.
And you should like it's almost as if it should be like a Hallmark card, and when you turn the last page, like the canned sound, like sitcom music comes through. It would just like fit so thematically well. But they are a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reading the one that I did. And I
Nice.
honestly, if I wouldn't be like trying to constantly read stuff for the podcast and reviewing and whatnot, I think I would like to read another Fear Street novel, if I'm saying so myself. So
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to have you back on then.
oh, what? A repeat guest? Oh my god. Okay.
All right, well, should we move on to a favorite middle grade novel?
Yes, 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 we shall.
Because we actually have quite a few of these.
Yeah, I kind of like really I wanted to read more middle grade this year. And in general, like I want to go back and read more of like Laura Sims stuff and like, there's a couple authors that I think are really doing a good job that I just haven't gotten to yet. So
Yeah. Okay. I really loved Ride or Die by Delilah S. Dawson. I read this for the Carnival episode with Chris Panettiere, but this is about a girl who kind of inadvertently ends up making friends with the popular girls at school. Like she helps one of the popular girls win a three-legged race during PE. They get paired up together and she helps her. And the girl's like, "Oh, do you want to come to my party?" And she's like a new girl in school. And the most popular girl asked her to her birthday party at like a lock-in at an amusement park. The correct answer is yes.
hell yeah.
So she goes, and the group is very like Mean Girls Heathers. Like they're all called like the M's. Like they all have like
Mm,
EM names, like Emma and
interesting.
Emily. And she immediately starts to see that the dynamics are like very toxic, and like Mean Girls, there are like rules that need to be followed to be in the group, like what it takes. And so, she has a moment of like, do I really want this? And they start playing truth or dare, and they dare her to go to like a closed off part of the park. And so she does. And then she finds that she can't get back in. to the part where
Okay.
she was supposed to be. Um, but she is able to like meet up with a group of teens that are wandering around. They take her under their wing, but they start telling her the lore, the dark
Not
lore of the park, and like why
oh.
this section is roped off. And she might find that she has other things she needs to survive.
Dun dun dun. Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I do love that the youths that take her under her wing are like, well, you don't know why you're really here. Well, no. I got locked out. So that sounds interesting. I might pick that one up. I remember one, the episode that you did with Chris was phenomenal. Love that episode.
Right.
That was a really good one. Um, two, one of the books that he mentioned, Hide by Kirsten White, I think, if I remember correctly. I had read that one, and that sounds there's a
Yeah.
little bit of a similarity to those. But that was a good read. That was a fun read. Okay, my pick for my first middle grade horror novel is another by Paul Tremblay. Paul, Mr. Tremblay, you still scared the daylights out of me with a middle grade novel. um, Basically, it's about this boy who like has just been having like a really rough time. Paul, it's not really a COVID novel, but like the past is set during COVID, so like he's doing the hybrid learning where like some days he's online, some days he's in person, and he kind of gets bullied for some of the things that happen like while he's on camera. Um and because he kind of has like these ticks that he does, so he's just been having like a really hard time. Like sports aren't coming easy to him anymore. He's like feeling distant from his parents. But then one day, this like for lack of a better word, this kid shows up for a play date and then doesn't leave. And his parents like act like they know what's going on. They're like, yeah, we, like he can stay however long he wants. And if the kid has this like amorphous blob shape to him, um but the longer that he stays, the more he starts to resemble our main character. And it's just this really it's this really good narrative, I think, about leaning on your art and what makes you unique, even if it's not the most popular thing, or even if like people want to pick on you about it. Like what makes you you is still very, very important, and that's gonna be the thing that you rely on time after time. um there It feels like it's a little bit about like AI. I mean, there's hard in today's day and age. It's hard to not see the AI connection of like, you
Mhm.
still need to rely on your art and you still need to rely on being unique. But I think in particular for like a middle grade novel, I think it's a really good message to kids, to like still be you, and you are you for a reason and you are special for a reason. So, but it was also genuinely terrifying. Like there's a few scenes that I was like, there's like this void scene that if you've read it,
Ew.
like really like existentially creeped me out. And I was like, damn, in a middle grade novel, existential dread. But yeah, no, that is another by Paul Tremblay.
Ooh. Okay, I do need to read that. Okay, my next pick is Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave by Ali Russell, which I think is going to be the first of a series. And if not, I need it to be because I love Mystery, who lives in a funeral home with her adopted aunt. And in this book, like the wealthy family in town, like their matriarch has died and they have a contract with the funeral home. So they're going to do her funeral there. It's like a very big deal for her aunt to do this funeral. And the um, family gives her like this very expensive, rare silver necklace that she is to be buried with. And they do everything, they have the service, everything goes well, until they get tipped off by a pawn shop in the other town that that necklace was sold to a pawn shop. And so
Yikes.
um Mystery is on the case because I mean her name is Mystery James. She also has a, I don't think she calls it a talent, but I'm going to say it's a talent. She can smell the dead, like she can sense them.
Oh, I like that.
And yeah, she uses that to solve this mystery and clear her aunt's name. But it was lovely. There was a lot of really great friendships in here. A lot of kids like looking out for each other, and in this case, like righting like generational wrongs.
Oh, interesting.
Like
I've heard a
really
lot of
getting
good.
into the like historical part of it. Yeah, Allie,
Yeah.
I'm going to read It Came from the Trees next year for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, a lot of people have said good things about this, and so it makes me want to pick it up. But I've heard great things about Allie in general, so this will definitely be going on my TBR as well. And then speaking of more things that get added to my TBR, I need to read the rest of this author I'm about to talk. I need to read the rest of her books, but Ali Malinyenko has another release this year called Broken Dolls that I read, and I really, really liked it. I think talking about grief with kids is really, really hard, especially because grief hits everybody so different. And even if it's not like, when I say a direct loss, like this, the her main character Kay loses her grandfather. So, in addition to Kay mourning her grandfather, she's having to see her mom mourn her dad. And, like, that's a really complicated thing, too. Sometimes you get upset for the people that you love being upset. Like, there's so many layers to grief. And I think that Allie does a really great job exploring that with this book. But as for what it's about, basically, Kay and her family go to stay with her uncle in her deceased grandfather's house. And they're going to kind of like fix it up and renovate it over the summer. Kay is very deep in her grief. She has a little sister, Holly, who's, a little bit more happy go lucky. She's younger, so the grief doesn't quite take hold as long as it does for Kay. They go to this like carnival fair thing, and Holly wins a doll that she brings home, and then more dolls start appearing around the house. And they seem to move of their own accord, and they can speak, it seems. And they want Holly to join them in being a doll for a very long time. And so Kay is the only one who seems to be paying attention to all of this. And so she's trying to get to the bottom of it, trying to figure out how to save Holly, trying to figure out what it all means, trying to get the parents to listen to her, her mom to listen to her and the adults to listen to her, all while battling her grief. Yeah, it's a really good book. It's another one of those things where I think that Allie gives really good shape to the things that are hard to describe with grief. And I think it's a really important conversation for kids of this age to kind of read about and like see that grief hits everybody a little different. Like it's okay to feel it a little bit longer than others or more intensely than others, or it might hit you like randomly. Like that's part of grieving. So yeah, and the dolls were also fucking terrifying, so there's that. Just very, very disturbing. So that is Broken Dolls by Ali Malinico.
I love that. That sounds beautiful. And I don't trust dolls. I've been
Yeah.
on record. I don't trust dolls. I mean, but I second that. Like my father-in-law died last year and my kids, had a hard time with it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's like it's so hard to explain to kids, like, because we even
yeah.
have a hard time as adults conceptualizing it. So I think it's important that there's like conversation starters like this, even if it doesn't provide the exact answer like to like a kid's like why am I sad? At least it's a way to talk about it. So
Mhm. Absolutely. Should we talk about our favorite nonfiction for the year?
yes, yes, we shall.
Okay. I read Sick Houses, Haunted Homes, and the Architecture of Dread by Layla Taylor. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and it absolutely lived up. I loved that she explored a lot of different types of haunted homes and really getting into the socioeconomic history and implications behind different architectural choices. Like there's a whole chapter on like modern houses and brutalism. Like if you've seen the Vincent Price House on Haunted Hill, that's not a classic Victorian haunted house. It's like a very modern like cement style home, and the history of brutalism and like the structures in A Clockwork Orange, and like really getting into all this stuff. And I also have a YouTube channel recommendation. I've mentioned her before, and then I've had people in my comments being like, I also love her on YouTube. So um Kendra Gaylord, on YouTube if you are interested in architecture and like what it says about society, humanity, history, and like pop culture. I cannot recommend her enough. She did a video like talking about the back rooms, like the actual picture, like where
Oh,
it
that's
came
cool.
from, like
Yeah.
investigated like where exactly it was. And she just has this way of like tying all her videos at the end into like this very beautiful like human interest societal implication angle. She just did a video on the pavilion in Carnival of Souls,
Oh, wow.
and they're all like amazing. And then she's done like what the houses in Gilmore Girls say about us. Like let's talk about all these like celebrity architectural. She had a giant spreadsheet. She watched every like celebrity architectural digest tour and like kept track of like trends and stuff. Like she is committed.
Oh,
And
I wonder what her thoughts
I
on
love
David
her.
Harbour and Lily Allen are. Oh, this is juicy. Okay. This sounds
um
delightful.
yeah, it's delightful. And this book was so fascinating. This was a book where I kept a tab open and I it sent me down so many like Wikipedia rabbit holes where I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, Wikipedia rabbit holing that for later. um and then I wanted to talk about an essay collection slash memoir I read called There's Always This Year on Basketball and Ascension by Hanif Abdurraqib. And this was beautiful. Never in a million years did I think I would pick up a book about basketball.
I was like, you're
Um,
not a sports girly. So you talking about this, I was like, whoa.
yes, this because I mean, it's about more than basketball. um, but he's talking about growing up in Ohio, and it's this the writing in this is gorgeous, but it's so meditative about like community and growing up and where you came from. So he's talking about like, yes, these important like moments, like what watching LeBron meant to him, what basketball means like for his community, like growing up, going to the barber shop and having basketball be this topic that you can talk about with like all the elders around you, that it's this like connective tissue. And I just have like some quotes so you can like see like, and it's like poetic. Like I listened to it as an audiobook and even like the cadence was like, oh, just delicious. I propose once again that you are in part who loves you, who might step outside of themselves to find whatever will heal you, return you to a place where you are loved.
Aw,
Yeah.
it is about more than basketball.
Heartbreak itself is a primary color, stagnant without a series of secondary colors to activate it. Longing is an activator.
Damn. Okay.
Like
Well,
this is like beautiful. I like messaged you. I'm like, Anna, you need to
you
read this
did.
book.
You
FYI.
did. You told me. And again, I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, basketball. Okay. Yeah, that one will probably it'll go in the never ending TBR. But that one sounds like it would be probably best as an audiobook from what
Yeah.
you've said, like the voice behind it. So yeah, maybe I'll get to that one this year. Um okay. I only picked one for this section because I can talk about it forever. Is Scream with Me: Horror Films and the Rise of American Feminism by Eleanor Johnson. Um this book altered the way that I think about like horror media, I think, in a way. Obviously, we all think about what's on our screens and like what we are into with horror and like why we're into it as horror enthusiasts, even like with the books that we read. But Eleanor Johnson is a professor at Columbia, I believe, and she wrote this book kind of inspired by one of her lectures where she kind of takes the really big pivotal movies of the 70s and 80s, I believe, and writes essays unpacking the cultural context around them. So, like, it's Rosemary's Baby and the Stepford Wives and all these, like, really, really big landmark movies that she's providing context to in terms of like abortion and abortion laws and like women's rights and the ERA and like all of the unrest that's happening behind the scenes and like people's opinions about these movies and how they've changed over time and how it's like been a reflection of where we're at, in this country regarding our attitudes towards women. Um it sounds like I remember I picked it up and I was like, man, I don't know, like, essay nonfiction like this can sometimes be really, really dense to get through, especially if there's like a lot of citations and stuff like that. But Eleanor Johnson, she's magic. She's just magical. In talking to her, she's captivating in her writing even more so. This is told like in a narrative format basically. She is
Hmm.
like unloading history as it happens and tying it in with the narrative pieces of these movies. So never once does it feel like you're being like lectured to at all. It's not dense reading in the slightest. If anything, it is very emotionally upsetting because there were so many things I think like on some level I knew, but whenever you hear them within the context of something as resonantly like part of pop culture as like some of these movies like Alien or whatever, and how recently, and like obviously we still are fighting for like women's rights in this country. It's so upsetting. And like, I just imagine for her what it was like to sit down and take a long hard look at all of this and compile it all into a succinct book. So it's a really important book. It's a really damn good book. And in the end, like I didn't think nonfiction like this could move me to tears, but her kind of like closing definitely did, because she talks about how important it is for women's voices to be heard, and there's a reason that we're screaming and we need to keep screaming as long as we can, and all these things. And yeah, she's just really, really, really brilliant. I also subscribe to her Substack, which like I think like once a week she'll unpack a movie.
Oh,
um
interesting.
yeah, I think might have sent you one, but it was kind of a long one. I think it was about Tusk, which is always an interesting thing to talk about. But yeah, no, she's just really smart. She's just like she's got the educational, cultural, historical context to supply where we're at with these things. And pop culture I think is a huge thing to both you and I. So to
Hmm.
have the history, the pop culture, the context with these films that we really, really love is like really a cool crossroads, but again, also kind of upsetting when you're looking at feminism in this country. So
I started reading this actually. I'm a few 100 or so pages into this, and I wasn't sure what I was going to think of it because I mean, I feel like I know ball. Like, you think I don't know ball? I know ball. I like exclusively listen to feminist
yeah.
movie podcasts. And these are big movies. So I was like, oh, I felt like I've listened to a lot of episodes on this and I've heard feminist takes on this. Like I know feminist history. I know about Phyllis Schlafly. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised by like the specificity of
Hmm.
things she would bring up that like I didn't know about. Like they're talking about Rosemary's Baby. She's talking about how there was a certain drug that people were prescribed that the side effects, weren't widely studied and it caused birth defects and how women were still being denied abortions for these pregnancies with a baby with like severe birth defects where like they would not survive, and how there was a famous actress who like had to travel to get an abortion and like brought this story to the forefront, and how like themes in Rosemary's Baby are mirroring that, how people at that time have that cultural context in their mind when they're watching this movie. And I think also about, I mean, we talk about horror as this place of empathy, but I mean, absolutely that these people are like, for the first time, empathizing in places where like they wouldn't think they would be, like
Hmm.
where they think their mind is made up until they're presented this horrifying scenario and they are made to empathize
Yeah, it's
with
the
certain issues.
my favorite point that she makes about all this is like, well, how pro life are you really
Yeah.
in the end? Like, if you're rooting for this in the movie, which generally most people were, like, what is it like? How do you really feel about it? And why does it
Yeah.
apply to this only in the extreme and not to our day to day man, like in our mundane,
Hmm.
functioning? I don't know. It gives you so much to think about, and it's just I think it's really put together in a really smart way. It's very accessible in my opinion. But yeah, that was just like a real big highlight of the year for me, was getting to read that and getting to talk to her about it.
Yeah. I think it also gave me a feeling of hope as these pieces of art were helpful in getting these feelings out to the major public and
Yeah.
eventually legislation. Like, I mean, in people putting words to things. I read the chapter on the Stepford Wives. Like, I made
Hmm.
my mom watch the 1970s Stepford Wives, and she felt very seen by it. Like, yeah, like I really resonate with this movie.
Yeah. No, it's important stuff. Like in what other way are you gonna be accessible to people like this, like other than this? So
Hmm.
that feels important, you know?
Absolutely. Oh, I also had like a really random nonfiction book that I picked up and I ended up really liking. It was called Mid-Century Kitchens. It was a look at kitchens from the 50s, 60s, and 70s by Sarah Archer. Um, and I go through so many like weird rabbit holes in my reading throughout
No,
the
this is my
year.
favorite thing about you because you will like tell me and then it becomes my weird rabbit hole. And then we have something to talk about for the next like 3 weeks. So
Sarah Archer is a returning guest on You're Wrong About. She
yes.
is really big on like domestic history. So she did an episode on like the tradwife movement. She did an episode on mid-century Santa. She did an episode on like Martha Stewart. So this is her wheelhouse. And it was just so fascinating looking into all the thought that went into kitchens and consumer design. And the way we think about these spaces and how much thought went into it, and also like what it meant when we started scaling up and able to get appliances, and what that had to do with like the Cold War and like Nixon going to Russia and showing off like what an American kitchen looks like. It was just fascinating, so much to think about.
Do you get on TikTok the like people who restore old fridges and like
No.
they oh my god, okay, I'm gonna have to send it to you the next time I get it, but sometimes on TikTok I'll get these like people who restore old appliances and like particularly the old fridges. Like, dude, they used to be able to do so much, like the trays that would come out and the spinning racks and like all of these things, and I feel like that's kind of part of this niche
Hmm.
examination. And like I think it's so interesting how like the design changes over time, that we don't have that anymore. Like what and so I'd be interested to
Yeah.
see like why don't we have these things? Because they look cool as
It's
shit to me.
capitalism, I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But I mean, like, it's interesting too. I know like Mad Men is having a resurgence.
oh yeah, that's
And I mean,
true.
this was around that time, but there was people that used to sit back and like watch a woman cook in a kitchen and kind of see like, oh, like what can we fix? Like, oh, she needs this
Yeah,
here. Like, what would be ideal placement for this? What is the best, most efficient way?
yeah, those like consumer studies and those,
Yes.
yeah, interesting. Okay, but I also have to give you a shout out as well because you turned me onto the You're Wrong About podcast
Yeah.
because I was looking for something about Courtney Love and I had a really good time listening to that episode. So.
Yeah. I'm always here to shout out You're Wrong About. Uh, but should we move on to our favorite non-horror novel?
Yes. Dude, I don't know what happened to me this year. Normally, I'm like very good about like, oh, I need a palate cleanser. Let me read, this. This year I read straight fucking horror. I had like literally the one I put on here was one of the few picks that I had. But yeah, no, I need to do I need to chill out maybe. I don't know. But
If it works for you, it works for you.
yeah.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with reading a lot of horror and getting a lot of horror reviewed.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Um, okay. I read Blob by Maggie Sue because I love a weird girl
Yep.
book.
Yep, yep,
And
yep.
this is about a young woman who is kind of stuck in life. She dropped out of college. She's kind of working front desk at a hotel. She just feels like kind of in a very dead end place. And after a night out with some acquaintances, she finds like a weird gelatinous blob, and she inexplicably, like, I think she comes back for it. She doesn't like pick it up right then and there. I think she like comes back and like it's changed and it seems to like move and react, like it seems to be a living thing. So she does what any person would do, is she takes it home.
As you should. As you should.
This thing starts growing and evolving, and eventually she turns it, I mean, eventually it becomes a adult man. So she's like, I guess I have a boyfriend now. Like I'm going to teach it how to be human.
Okay,
And
but like,
like,
isn't that a little horrific? It's like it's an adult man.
I mean, it is. Like she takes it to meet her parents, and she has like a brother who's like a doctor, and so she's just always felt like she's the screw up in the family, and she kind of feels like, well, now at least I have a boyfriend. I love books that are taking wild swings like this, but that through this wild swing and bizarre premise, like follow a character's journey to self-actualization and like finding herself and finding her voice. And
See, this is also one that I picked up on your recommendation. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But like again, I have zero doubt that when she goes back to pick up the blob, I'll be like, "Well, yeah, duh. Like that's what you got to do."
what
And
if it's
I
lonely?
yeah, I mean, like it could have feelings too. I think yeah, I don't know. Like there I really love the out there premise and using something so unique like that, something so novel that's very like I just think in a world where we're very we do like a lot of franchise stuff, we do remakes, we do whatever. I don't care if it's bad shit. I love a novel idea like this because it's so
Hmm.
fresh. So I am there all the way. Although I would argue this is a little bit horrific because if we go from cute little blob to man, yikes. But anyway.
I also picked up The Favorites by Elaine Fargo. And let me just say, if you're needing something that is going to pull you out of a slump, this is a book that, like, immediately, I feel like it sucks you in. I would recommend the audiobook. It's a full cast audiobook. This is about a famous like ice skating couple. It's also a Wuthering Heights retelling because it's like Catherine and Heath are the two ice skaters. It's kind of looking at what their legacy was. So like the premise for this is like a Netflix documentary tell all, like what happened to this like it couple on the ice and like all the scandals and controversies and like where they came from. And so you are hearing from like a lot of different people, like their peers, and like, yeah, she would do this. And like, we all couldn't believe when this happened. And then the next chapter is like her, and she's like, let me tell you my side of the story. Let me set things straight. It is so fun. It reads like so dishy. Like, I think I need you to imagine me at home, microfiber cloth in hand, spray bottle, like over ear headphones, like gasping out loud at things that are revealed. Like,
The scandal. Oh, this sound okay. I think I heard you talk to Agatha about this, maybe.
yes,
And the closest thing I could think to is like Daisy Jones and the Six, which
yes, it
like
is.
the
It is a
yeah.
lot like that.
Okay, is like the real life knockoff of Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. So like you again, another book that at your like you talking about it, I went and I bought it, but again, I just haven't read it yet. But I know that I will be into that because I'm also into like a will they won't they couple kind of situation, like a weird like a messy situationship. I will say I am not a Wuthering Heights fan. So I'll be interested to see how that goes for me.
That's
But
not like as present. It's more like there's little nods to it here and there. It's not like a straight retelling. Um,
yeah, I just so like this is my biggest qualm with Wuthering Heights, and I think that it's also part of like my qualm with like some romances today. It's like very much like this is my issue with the Summer I Turned Pretty series. Okay, if somebody would just have like one conversation, like 3 seasons worth of problems would be solved. You know what I'm saying? Like if
yeah.
somebody just sat down with this person and was like, "Listen, this is, and so that was like my issue. Like fewer hauntings would have happened in Wuthering Heights if somebody would have just had a conversation. You know what I mean? So that's my issue. So I'll be interested to see if I have that same feeling for this. But
Maybe.
I do like an angsty situationship, so that might override it for me.
Yeah. Um, Lane Fargo did
Oh, they
like
will never learn, right?
yeah, she did They'll Never Learn.
Okay.
She made an Instagram reel recently talking about one of the inspirations for the favorites, which like I wasn't aware of. I should have written down who the actual ice skater was, but I guess she was this ice skater in like the 80s or 90s. She was just kind of edgy. Like
Mm.
she wore like a really scandalous outfit on the ice and they like wouldn't let her on, so she just like put something random on over it so she could like still skate. And I think she was, I think, the first ice skater to pose nude for Playboy, and it was the first time that they completely sold out.
Oh
Like,
shit. Oh god. Okay.
fascinating person.
Interesting. Huh. That adds a whole new layer of this. I'm intrigued. So my pick for this non-horror novel, one of the only ones, I think the only one that I read, if my Goodreads isn't lying to me, is Last Night at the Lobster by Stuart Ornan, which you talked about with, I think, Neil on the Small Town episode. Is that correct? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And you've mentioned it before a few other times. Stuart Ornan has also written a book that I'm dying to get to, The Speed Queen, which is
Hmm.
kind of like a look at this serial killer type woman. I think that she's about to be executed. And she like has these letters written to this famous author that like it's not Stephen King, but it's Stephen King. Um, and about all that. So like that premise alone is like my bread and butter. But I picked up Last Night at the Lobster to read on my honeymoon because I was like, maybe I need to take a break while I'm on the beach enjoying this pina colada. And I was glad that I did. Last Night at the Lobster is just basically about this last night that this Red Lobster is open before they close, and it's about like all of the messiness of the staff that works there and all of their like various feelings about the closing and like how they work with one another. It's very like slice, and I like this to break up the horror. It's very slice of life. Like the conflict kind of exists in the background, and when you think about it, it's always like a bigger like societal conflict of like why somebody feels that way or like why one person behaved this way or acted out this way. But like when you're reading it, it's just like kind of going through the motions. This is the kind of life that these people live, and I find that very comforting. I find that very like I don't think cozy is the right word, but like very just very comforting. I had a really good time with it. A lot of people when I like went to go clock it on Goodreads, everybody was like, there is no plot to this book, nothing happened. And I'm like, but that was the beauty of it. And the conflict was external and capitalism and death of these like jobs for these people and where they're gonna go and what they feel about like one another and where does all of that go at the end of the day. So I don't know. I liked it. I think I'm just a sucker for some slice of life living fiction sometimes. So
I am too. If anyone else wants to give us any recs similar to Last Night at the Lobster, I think we'd be open to that.
yeah, no, for real. This is an open call for slice of life fiction.
And the last one for this category, I read The Wedding People by Alison Esbach, and I loved this. This is like the cover with like the waves, and there's just like a hand coming out of the waves and like a bottle. So we are following a protagonist who her husband has left her for, they both were professors at a university. He has left her for like another professor at the school. She also like recently had a miscarriage, and the husband's new girlfriend is pregnant.
Oh
So
god.
she is at a point when we meet her at the start of this book, and she has booked herself a weekend stay at this beautiful seaside hotel that she looked at, and like at first had planned to come here for like a weekend getaway with her husband. And she's like, I'm going to book myself that room now and buy this dress and have like a room with like a seaside view. And she has done this because she is planning to kill herself there.
Takes a turn. Okay, takes a turn. All right. I was like, yeah, you go, girl. Like you go. Oh no, don't do that.
So yeah, she's like, this is my, Queen Latifah last holiday type deal, but darker. And so she goes down, and when she's checking in, she realizes the whole hotel, she still has her room, but essentially the whole hotel has been booked for a wedding. And she's like, oh god, like of course this would happen to me. And she sees like the bride coming around, and she's just like this very tiny, like high energy, perky Kristen Chenoweth energy giving person. And she finds herself like in the elevator with the bride, who's like, what are you doing here? Like, I don't know you, like I booked this whole hotel. And she's like, you know what, I'm here because I'm gonna kill myself. And the bride is like, you can't do that on my wedding weekend, are you
Oh.
kidding me right now? My wedding will be ruined if they're carrying out like a body bag. You can't do this to me.
Oh my god.
And so she's like, hold off on that. Like, and she kind of takes her under her wing and starts like involving her in the activities and kind of makes her like a bridesmaid. And she's like, whoa, 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 like I didn't ask for this quite yet. but it is one of those like a man called Uwe, like,
Yeah.
like someone kind of at the point and finding reasons to stay alive and community, and through this act of kindness and meeting this group of new people. Like, I don't think she allowed herself to see what like a life without her husband, and like
Yeah, like outside.
without the
Yeah.
narrative she had in her head of like what happiness could be, or like what success looked like, and like why that matters, like deconstructing all of that and like giving herself permission to grow
Yeah, well, that
and
sounds
leave.
good. My mom read this recently actually, and she asked me if I read it, and I said, "No, I did not, but I think that my friend has." And she said, "You should read it. It was good." And I said, "Okay." But no, that does sound very good.
My one like mom friend is reading it for her book club. It's a very book clubby book. It was like a read with Jenna pick.
Yeah, but like we
And
all
I'm like,
need
it's
that
good.
sometimes. I was just saying, no, we need that sometimes, and we need like good book club books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this just seems like one of them. So,
So that is The Wedding People by Alison Especk.
all right.
And moving on to favorite
It's
novella.
my turn to yes and I'm so excited about it because I just finished this like 2 days ago. So
Oh man, I am talking about Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. And listen, all the book podcasts I listen to, this has been listed. Okay, this has been mentioned. There's a reason why,
how
because
could it not? How could it not?
it's wild. It's so wild. I mention this every time I talk about it, but we were in a like at StokerCon, there was a buzzing about books panel, and Emily Hughes said, like, this one's for the freaks. Like, raise your hand if you're a freak. And if you're a freak, this is for you. Um, so we are following a scientist who's kind of in this like remote outpost in the desert with like just a handful of other scientists. And like to get that job is already a rigorous process because they have to make sure that these personalities don't clash, that like you're okay with the isolation and the living conditions. And Kinsey is more than okay with this because there is something she wants to get away from on the mainland. And one day, while they are doing some exploration, they find this what did you call it? Like a mutant coyote, like a
Yeah.
weird, like,
Well, in my head, it was just gonna be like an amoeba. They got an amoeba. But it was like actually a critter. Like it was actually like a very large mutated coyote critter that they come across. So I was like, oh, not an amoeba. Okay.
yeah, so they bring it in. You know, sci-fi, like remote science stuff. What's the first thing they're gonna do? Break fucking quarantine and like go against protocol and bring in this like unknown specimen. People start getting sick, like everyone starts being like quarantined into their specific things. And let's just say the thing Kinsey has been like running away from has found her. Uh Everyone, if you've heard anyone talk about this is a horny novel. This is about the very specific thing that Kinsey is into, and the thing that gets her motor running, you know? It's
As I sent in our text messages, that gif of Tina from Bob's Burgers, let's make this kitty purr. Boy, did Sarah Gailey do that. I
it's
had
horny the thing, okay?
you pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I had so many conflicting emotions reading this between like ugh and then oh. You know what I mean? Like there's two kind of ooghs with this book, and one is of intrigue and one is of disgust. So it's just fun. Like I love that you can do this with horror, and I love that Sarah did it. It's so brilliant, and it's just so fun, and it's a novella, so it's not
Yeah.
like it's not a over and pun in I guess in meant it's not an overindulgent or self-indulgent book. Um it like gets to the point right away. It is just like it was super fun, and I think it's the epitome of like don't yuck someone else's yum, okay? Um because again, there was some things in this book I was like, "Oh, oh, interesting." I was texting you about them as it happened, so
So that was Spread Me by Sarah Gately.
A very fun time indeed. Okay, and then my pick for this is the film you were about to see by Hailey Newland. This takes place in like the 1950s. I want to say 59. Movie drive-in culture. There is basically this group of kids who wants to go to the drive-in for like this huge like Vincent Price marathon. But there is like the added part of this drive-in is like it's all very gimmicky. Like there's the women who are serving like refreshments to the cars are like dressed up like nurses. You know, like there's like checking on you to see if like you're fainting from the horror and like all this stuff. So it's like a very big production. But the main character, she's like it was very reminiscent of Carrie. She has like a little bit of this like premonition thing, and she has seen like her grandmother die, and like she knows kind of like what's up, and so she starts getting these like bad feelings, and she kind of gets to the bottom of this that the gimmicks that are going on at the drive-in are not really gimmicks, and people are dying.
Oh.
And where it goes from there, it's kind of like slashery, I guess, in terms of like how fast paced it is with the kills and the creative kills and the intensity of it, but also it like is really reflective about parts of history, like the origin for the thing that's causing this is really unique. It's just a really cool story, and I think that Hailey has a really cool voice. I'm really excited to see what she does next, but to fit this much into a novella length was really cool to see. And I really enjoyed like the narrative that she had, kind of like about feminism and equality and all of that good stuff, rooted within this like very kind of fun premise. Like, not to say that like slasher deaths are like super fun, but like the gimmick behind it was very, very fun, which also felt very specific to that time. So it was just like a really cool story the way that she did it. So that is the film you're about to see by Hailey Newland.
I love that. I need to read that. Every single person that has read this has had like nothing but good things to say about it. The cover design is incredible, and I know Haley is like a huge Vincent Price head and like loves this era of movies. So I'm very excited to check this one out. All right, well, let's talk about favorite debuts.
My list
I'm
is actually long for this one.
I
Woo!
am yes anding a lot of yours.
Yeah, no, I actually have a long list for favorite debuts, which I feel very proud of. And your pick for this, I'm yes anding as well.
Okay.
So
It's
very
been a
excited.
good year for debuts. And I'm
Yes.
also excited about that for next year as well.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, like it'll be a lot of new voices. So always excited for this category. I'm talking about Bat Eater and Other Names for Corzang by Kylie Lee Baker. I loved this. I read this really early in the year, and there is something about like when you're starting a year like in January and you read a great book that just gives you like faith in the rest of the year. And you're like,
Yeah.
hell yes, if this is any indication of like what things are to come, I am very excited. Um, so this is about Corzang, who works as a crime scene cleaner in Chinatown, and she witnessed the sudden and traumatic death of her sister, who was like pushed in front of a subway train in front of her. This is dealing a lot with the rise in Asian hate that skyrocketed during COVID. And this was so beautiful and thoughtful, but truly was a horror novel at heart with the gore and really using that, I think, to its full potential in this.
I
Like,
yeah. I love this one. This one was so good.
so good. So, she's this crime scene cleaner, and she is noticing that a lot of the crime scenes she's cleaning are like these, Asian women living in Chinatown, and there are bats at all these crime scenes inexplicably where there shouldn't be. And it's trying to get people to like pay attention and do something to look into this, and realizing that she's going to have to look into this herself.
Yeah. I think like to your point, like I like how rooted in reality this was, and like it was very context like I think having lived through the COVID moment, obviously not in New York, but just in general,
Yeah.
and like people's attitudes towards then, and then the work that Cora Zhang is doing in this book is gruesome work. I mean, crime scene cleanup is not a cakewalk. So having the horror rooted in like the mundanity, and then additionally, kind of externally as we see as the book unfolds, I think it was just really really smart. Yeah, it's a really unique story, and I don't know that I've ever quite read anything like it, and I don't know that we will. I think it's a very unique book that explores like grief and loss and like desiring and an equalizer, like to even the playing field for everybody.
Absolutely. I cannot wait for Japanese Gothic.
Yes, same. I got an advanced copy of this one like this week, and I've like been making myself still read some 2025 releases to try and like end cap the year, but I'm dying to get to that one. So it's taking all of my patience to not just open that one now. Okay. So I've got three. And I'll
Okay.
try to roll through these quickly so that way, nobody gets tired of hearing me talk so much. But the first one is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This is basically like uh it's cannibalism, but it's set with this yeah, I'm just gonna start there. It's this mother and daughter that live in the woods in this very like secluded cabin. Their way of life is not what we would, expect for modern day standards or like even for like 40 years ago. It's very strange. And we get this from the point of view of the young girl, the daughter. And this book also has one of the most iconic opening lines. It's like, I found 6 severed fingers in the drain today. And you're like, what? Come again? So yeah, but this is also a book about in my reading of it, as she's an only child and she wants the approval of her mother so badly. Somebody does show up to the house and it becomes more than just her and her mom in this house, and some dynamics shift and things are not always as they once seemed, and nobody's really as safe as they once seemed. And it's very gruesome. It is very there's no punches pulled with this book, I'll say that. But I think it's a really interesting look at like always wanting acceptance from that maternal figure, striving for acceptance, and even whenever it is absolutely asinine and gruesome, like you just want to be loved by your mom, kind of. And the place, like the horror in that, and the horror that some of the people closest to you can be monsters. So yeah, that is The Lamb by Lucy Rose.
Lucy Rose, you
Um,
will pay for your crimes.
Yes, yes. And another thing too
This
about this is
like
it
devastating. This is a
yeah,
devastating story.
very upsetting. But it also took like that Appalachian cannibal crime kind of narrative that I feel like we kind of got with like Brother by Anya Alborn. And this is set in England. So
Yeah.
like this is like in a new like it was very kind of cool to see that somewhere else, if that makes sense. So it sounds like a similar story, but it's very one much of its own. The next pick that I have is House of Beth by Carrie Cullen. This book is just it's got so much going on in it, and it is all handled so well. But it's basically like the anti Hallmark movie. It's about this woman who's like working in the big city, and she sees this thing at her job one day, and she's really kind of unnerved or rattled by it, or she just decides that she no longer wants to be in the city. So she moves back to her dad's house, I believe in New Jersey, this like very
Mhm.
small town. Everybody knows everybody. There's a local bookshop that she wants to go work at. And she ends up like running into her childhood best friend. They like kind of rekindle, like, I don't know that they were ever romantically involved before, but they basically start dating, and come to find out though he's a widow and his wife Beth has recently died. He has 2 kids, and our main character kind of like steps into this life, but come to find out there is more to all of this than she originally bargained for. Um, this is just like a really cool kind of flipping on its head, like a ghost story in a way, like being haunted by the ghosts of people that you only know peripherally or only know through other people, and like societal expectations and roles. Like it kind of argues the trad wife movement. It does
Mhm.
so much, and it just like there's this big metaphor at the end that I really really enjoyed. It's a bear trap scene. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. I really like that. But yeah, it's a really interesting read. And again, a premise an execution that I don't think that I've ever seen before, and I don't know that we'll really see again. It kind of plays on Daphne, no, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Um, but yeah, some of the internal conversations that go on in this book are like very cool and very interesting. So that is House of Beth by Carrie Cullen.
Yeah.
Um, I was
Yes,
gonna say you read this
anding.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, anding that. Um, and I will say, like, it has like the same premise as Rebecca, but I think it does something completely different. And I know it's hard to, I'm like trying to think about how to say what I want to say without spoiling anything. But
Yeah.
I think that the figure of Beth was my favorite part. Like when
Mhm.
we learn more about her, I just thought this was beautifully done and like
Yeah. Me too.
hopeful and
Yeah. I yeah. It has it's a very I have faith in women kind of story, after reading it. And then my last pick is Good Boy by Neil McRobert. This was technically, I think, also a novella, but it was a debut, so I decided to throw this one in here. Um, it is just, I mean, it made me cry a lot. It's about the world's best dog. It's basically what you need to know. But the big premise that you should know going in is that they're in the small town in the north of England. There are kids going missing, and this woman is like washing her dishes one night, and she looks out the window, and one of the places that one of these missing boys was last seen, there's a dude just like burying something, and she's like, "What the fuck? I need to go check that out." And what she goes and finds is this is indeed burying something, but not what she expected. And he begins to tell his story, and that's pretty much the bulk of the book. But and I don't want to say too much because it's spoilery, but it's just a book about like social responsibility, happiness and fulfillment. Like it's so freaking good. Like it's just one of those ones that like made me very, very emotional. The ending I think was fabulous. I wept like a baby, and yeah, that's my big review for it. I cried a lot.
I mean, seconding that, I absolutely loved this book. And to what you're saying, I think the theme that really stuck with me is the social responsibility and the idea of like, what do we owe to each other and especially to the next generation? And I don't know if I just have like a chip on my shoulder from growing up as a millennial, constantly being fucking blamed for everything by the boomers and then Gen X, that I just feel like we need to do what we can to look out for each other. I think of that proverb that like I forget how it starts, but it's like this: a society is good when men plant trees whose shade they'll never
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that a lot. That's good. That feels very on brand with what Neil is writing about. So, those are my
Yes.
picks for my favorite debut.
Solid picks. Now for the big one.
The big, big
moving
one.
on to moving on to favorite novel. This was quite a year. So, we've got a few.
A few, to say the least, yes.
Um one I read, speaking of like Bat Eater and other names for Corzang, another book that I read very early in the year was Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna Van Veen. I loved her debut novel. This is her second book with Source Books, and I could not believe how much I liked this. This is set in the Netherlands. I want to say in the 19th century. It's about twin sisters, and our main character is taking a train home because she received like a troubling letter from her sister, where she's just not making sense. She's saying some odd things, like she went to the bog on her property and saw a body, and now like the bog lady is after her, and like she's like, something's not right. I need to go visit my sister. So she goes to do that. Her sister is married to this very wealthy landowner. And so she goes and stays there for a bit, and things start to get weird. It gets gory in a way I was not expecting, but that I really enjoyed. Um, I there's elements of like female rage that are explored in this, and you know what? I think
I
bogs
was
are
about to
having a
say
moment, and I
the
think
bog moment.
bogs are having a moment. And I think this really capitalized on that and really used the bog to like its full potential.
I dig it. I need to read this one. I have a copy of it. I do tend to be like a little leery of like it's not even no, it's a period piece, but like sometimes stuff set that far back I have a hard time getting into. But everybody has had such good things to say about this, so I really need to make the effort to get into it. And of course like Bog Lady, duh. I need to check that out. So okay. I'm gonna start on my list. I'm gonna just go in the order that I put it in. This is not ranked by any means. This is just truly
Mm-mm.
off the cuff. So, Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This I'm sure for you will be another yes and. Um
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I've talked about this book everywhere. I've screamed about it all year. Basically the premise is that we have this fashion influencer, Cleo Barnes, and Cleo Louise Barnes. Cleo would hate if I didn't say her middle name, I think. Um, and she is estranged from her mom. She's kind of like still in touch with her sisters. She has two sisters. She's still close with her dad. But she's living on her own in New York. She's like out having a night out, doing her thing, and she gets the call that her mother has passed. And so she has to kind of like go back home and reconvene with her sisters to deal with the passing of their estranged mother. And she's like kind of the only one who wants to like even have anything to do with this. And then come to find out the house that they were kind of spent some time growing up in that was allegedly haunted and that their mother wrote a book about, like a tell all, as a possessed house, actually never sold, and their mom kept it the whole time. And so the girls still have the house, and they of course want to sell it. But Cleo's like, actually, I think I want to go live there and fix it up for content. Because that's what you do, I guess. And Cleo goes back to the house against everybody's like, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. And she finds stuff there, both personal to her and her mom and the house. And yeah, she kind of has to wrestle with the public's perception of her mom and like women in general and kind of match that up with what might have actually happened in that house and who her mom really was and kind of like re-explore her past that way. It's just so fucking good. I mean, there's a book within a book component to this, which is also really great. But beyond that, I mean, it's a book that makes me think about how I think about women now. Like, if I go to judge a woman, I'm always like, I don't know that maybe I should, because do we really know what happened there with that? Um, so yeah, I mean, and also it's damn frightening. There's that part of this as well. There's a scene, I think, like in the living room with the sliding glass door, if I remember correctly, that scared the bejesus out of me. Um, yeah, this is right. I mean, Rachel just keeps getting better and better, and this is proof of that. It's such a good book, such a good book. So that is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison.
Yeah, absolutely seconding that. I loved it. I think this might be my favorite Rachel book for right now,
Yeah.
you know? Um, I also love the dynamic that Cleo is the youngest, so she really doesn't have firsthand memories of what happened. She has always relied on what her
Hmm.
sisters and dad have told her um, about her mother. And I think Rachel also balances the nuance in this situation really well, in that it's not like a 100% vindication that like her mother was 100% in the right and never did anything wrong. It's that the truth is always more complicated. People are complicated and they are layered and they make mistakes. And, it takes some looking into
Yeah.
and understanding
Yeah, it's
that.
always messy. Like no matter what, it's always going to be messy, but it doesn't mean that like anybody deserves like death because of it. You know what I mean? Like
No.
we don't have to like
Yeah.
crucify people because they're messy.
No, absolutely
So
not.
yeah, that's the biggest takeaway that I had.
This is for the children of
Yeah.
divorce.
Oh man. Okay, what's your next one?
Oh man, one I talked about on an episode with you this year. It's
Yeah.
Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Huang, who is a new favorite. Um, 2 5 stars in a row from her. I love Natural Beauty. This is her second book, and I don't know that I'm gonna fully get into it because it took me like 20 minutes to get into the plot when we talked about it because there's so much going on because I'm like, okay, it's set in a world where like this is the case. There's a lot of like world building going on. But essentially it's about like these two girls that are in art school together. They have this like extremely close, like bordering on toxic codependent relationship. Our main character did not come from money. She marries essentially like a tech billionaire who is whose family is like very heavily invested in essentially AI. I don't think it's called that in the book, but also like while she's in art school, there is this like really big unveiling of this AI program that causes a majority of the art school students to panic because they see essentially that like their projects are just like out there, like the thing that they have dedicated their life to in an instant is gone and now considered irrelevant. Weird. I don't know like
What is that all about?
how that could come
We
into
wouldn't know
play.
anything about that.
hmm and the girl's friend came from like this very privileged background, but she was always like very naturally talented in that she always had like a new, fresh idea and was always like very interesting and this like rising star in the art world. And she goes through a very traumatic event, and there is like this new procedure that could allow her to help her, and it will prey on their like codependent relationship. Boundaries will be blurred. Where do you end, where do I begin
Ugh.
type
I love
deal.
that though. I love a where do you end, where do I begin? That's such a good, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's a trope, but character device. It's so messy. I love it. I think I'm just learning that I love messy shit at this point.
Yeah.
But no, that sounds really interesting. I have both Immaculate Conception and Natural Beauty on my shelf to read because these both, if they're both
Nice.
5 stars for you, there's a good chance they're gonna hit with me. So I need to read these, and that's a very interesting premise. Yeah, and it's just it's all of it's very timely. Like, unfortunately, very timely. You know. All right, my next pick is Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a book that kind of blew my mind a little bit because another one that I was really nervous about reading. It was a bit of like a period piece. It's historical horror in a way. So I was very nervous how I would find myself getting into it, but that was no problem. I got sucked in. Um Basically there's like this manuscript that's found in like 2019, I think, and this woman who works at this college like wants to get her hands on it because it is like of her like long lost descendant that it's been recovered or whatever, and then they start kind of like reading the manuscript and what's there, and she starts delving into their history. So again, like another story within a story scenario, but the greater plot that the bulk of the book is devoted to is this. It's set back in, god, I don't even know the year, but it is a time where there's a preacher who is, in this small settlement, and there is a Native American man who comes and joins his congregation, and he says that he's a vampire, basically. Good Stab. And Good Stab tells him his story. And we follow Good Stab's story, and just like Stephen Graham Jones, what he manages to do with the vampire narrative that's really feels very unique in the story is so important. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but like the specific vampire lore that he kind of capitalizes on for Good Stab and like his life and what the consequences of his actions are is really, really unsettling. And really says a lot about, I think, our plight with um kind of repressing people and eradicating native cultures and all of these different things. So but there's like a few scenes that I was like, truly, what the fuck, in terms of the horror whenever it comes to reckonings and revenge and gore. I cried a little bit because It's not a Stephen Graham Jones story unless some animal doesn't make it. Um, it's yeah, it does. I'm doing a very poor job of explaining what all of this book is about, but in essence, it is a huge. It feels like a very huge literary accomplishment to have horror be presented in this historical light that examines our society's views on things, both in the past and the present, and to give name and shape with such violence and retribution in the way that these characters do. Um, there's so much more I could say about this book, but I would be here for forever and ever. But that's The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones.
I mean, this was honestly just quite a feat
Yeah.
in just balancing the different voices and time periods. I'm just like,
That's the thing that I think about the
of
most
course,
is
it's
like
Stephen Graham
how
Jones.
distinct Goodstab's voice was, and then the preacher Arthur, like how distinct his voice was, and like Stephen obviously wrote both, you
Hmm.
know, so it's very
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. Um, my next book is When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. It's like, listen, another one that had me
Oh my god,
sobbing
yeah.
at the end. Nat Cassidy, you also will pay for
Count
your
your days.
crimes.
Yeah.
Count your days. um, but this is about a woman who has had like the shift from hell at a diner, and she is coming home and sees a little boy outside her apartment, like hiding in the bushes. And she's like, "Where's your dad? Like, where are your parents?" We find his dad. Okay.
Unfortunately.
It's a bloody encounter. Now they are on the run. So this woman, again, who just got off work, is like, running away with this unknown, like 5-year-old boy in tow. And for some reason, crazy things, just inexplicable things, start to happen and follow them. And I think the thing about this is that it is this high octane action story where things are constantly happening. Like the FBI is after them, like it becomes this whole giant thing. But it is also this deeply moving personal story that will have you crying. Um, I would say like fatherhood and, you know, overcoming like fear and anxiety are huge themes, and I connected to all of them. I mean, I knew I was in when the front page was called like all dads are motherfuckers. That's what the first section is called, and I was like, you know what, that is how they get the
Yeah.
gig, so there you go.
Wait. I don't think it's been put like that to me before. I'm sorry, that took me out. That was so good. That is how they get the gig. Okay. Whew, okay. No, I I really love this book too. And like you kind of mentioned this at the top of the premise, but like there is nothing worse than like it's encountering something you don't want to deal with after a really shitty day at work, and this is like this times 1000. Like it is God, it's just one thing after another. But it, it's entertaining on that surface level of like if you're just looking for a very wild horror story, Nat gives that to you. But if you want a book that's in conversation with fear itself and what it means to be afraid and like where you go after you're afraid, then he also gives you that too. Like this book just operates on so many levels. It's so fucking good. My next pick is Of Flesh and Blood by N.L. Lavin and Hunter Burke. I have to shout this book out because one, I do genuinely love it. Like I know I am a little biased because these guys, they are from where I'm from essentially or near where I'm from. But this book like sincerely is my bread and butter, okay? Essentially, you have like this forensic psychiatrist who finds himself in way too deep on this like case study of one of his distant relatives who went down for like all of these serial crimes. And so we kind of get like the book is told in like this alternating exposition of like the personal toll that this like is taking on our main character as he's unpacking how he may or may not be related to all these crimes, and then like all of like the newspaper articles, the interviews, the transcripts, the retellings of like what happened in the past to like lead up to this moment. So it's this big convergence of like past and present that's coming up to reckon with one another. But more importantly, it starts off very grounded and rooted in like procedural matters, police stuff, psychological unrest, the broken law system in Louisiana, swap murders. And then it just descends into utter chaos, and I fucking loved it. Where it goes is just chef's kiss. It is so unique to our area, and I could not get enough of it. I will read a million of these books every day and every night. I feel like it did get kind of pushed out a little bit more as a thriller than it is horror, and I do think it starts out that way, but this book goes full horror, full tilt by the end, and I am just a huge fan of it. I've been talking about it all year. I think both Hunter and NL are like fabulous people, super nice guys, and I need to read more from them like now. It needs to happen. So that is A Flesh and Blood by NL Lavin and Hunter Burke.
I love that. And that is such a you book. Like, if you're ever like, what book do you think about when you think of me? It would
Yeah,
be this.
100%. Very, very on brand. I have been perceived correctly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My next pick is Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle, which, number one, was an absolute
Hmm.
blast to read. I think in a way that I was like, I can't believe we're going here. I can't believe this is happening. And I mean, that is like part of the premise of the book is like unpredictable events start happening. But you're following like a statistician, I believe, right? That is what
Yeah.
she is. She's very like into like
Yeah.
probability and like mathematics. And she is out with her girlfriend and her mom and like her group of friends, and like this is a big day. She's gonna like introduce her girlfriend to her mom, and absolute chaos ensues. Like there is a, is it a chimp or is it just like a
I think it's
monkey?
a chimp with a typewriter.
I think it is a chimp.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't-
Um,
yeah.
just like words in a sentence that have never been like put together before is the premise of this book. It's just like insane stuff starts happening, and like they go outside, and like an unimaginable amount of just like weird stuff is going on everywhere and causing deaths all over the place because the world is just in chaos. And um we like flash forward, and like the world has kind of like dealing with coming back from this, and like we're looking back on it and calling it like the day of improbability, or like the improbable event, or something like that. But she has just kind of been in hiding. Her mother died. She's like living in her mother's house and just kind of like getting by. When she is contacted by someone in the FBI to like team up and look into a mysterious casino that we think may have had something to do with this. And for like a good chunk of this book, it is like a buddy cop scenario where they're like kind of alternating like quirks and
But like
stuff.
also
And
existentially dreadful. Like the most
absolutely.
dreadful buddy cop pairing.
The most dreadful buddy cop pairing is perfect. Put that on the
Yeah.
cover, blurb that. But I think what really resonated with me is, I guess, just where I am in my life and my philosophy. And I think this sense of like sunny nihilism that I have embraced. I felt that Chuck really spoke to that, being kind of like the ambassador of like sunniness and hopefulness and the power of love. I just felt like this is a book I needed.
Yeah. I love everything Chuck writes is wonderful. Like, do not get me wrong, everything Chuck writes. This is like nobody writes a federal employee like Chuck. Like nobody writes an FBI person or like somebody closely related to that profession like Chuck. And I just need to know, like, Chuck, was that you in a former life? Like what do you know that we don't? Also, were you in a writer's room for the X-Files, Supernatural, and or any of the other related shows that come from there? Because like my favorite thing about a Chuck Tingle book that you can rely on, and this happens in Lucky Day, is like the structure that you have from like that investigative angle, because he did it again, and bury your gaze of like this is the rooted nature of and logic that we're gonna go by, to like figure out what's happening. And it's just so smart to do that for me because I'm so like that's of my interest. So it just makes so much sense to me to explore a story that way, and I fucking love it every time. But the if you looked up what the fuck in the dictionary, it would be Lucky Day. It's just absurd amounts of random violence that like could not I don't know how he came up with half of it. Like, I don't know how you do, but it's so good. But I do think at the end, it is about finding the comfort and like, yeah, I don't fucking know. I don't know. And that might be okay. Like it'll be okay.
Yeah. And that has been a journey for me. I think growing up with like a very rigid, ingrained sense of like
Yeah.
purpose and what is right and wrong, and that there is no gray area. And I think allowing myself the freedom to let go of those expectations and just let things be. And if it means nothing, then I feel like that means
Yeah.
everything, you
No.
know?
I feel the same. I think that it's a hard battle fought, but I think it's a good place to get to whenever you can kind of like, all right, here's what it is, and this is what we're gonna do. Whatever it may be.
I also will say, I think it's tough to come up with any type of book comps for Final Destination, and I think this is the closest I've
That's so
come.
true.
Like,
The
honestly, if you like some Final Destination ass like set pieces, they're
the
here.
first 20% I would say is all Final Destination set pieces. So that's perfect. I'm gonna do so this is actually a backlist read that I read this year, but it's Such a Pretty Smile by Christy DeMeester. Such a good freaking book. I could talk about it forever. I just don't think it gets the love that it deserves, but it's another one of those books that I would like comp with like Such Sharp Teeth, that kind of narrative, but it's and it also part of it is set in New Orleans. So again, I know I am a little biased here, but hear me out, go with me. It's about basically like the serial disappearance or gruesome murders of these young girls, and it kind of like started happening a long time ago and it's picking back up. There's some probable personal ties to our main characters, who also our main character, it's told like in the past and the present, so we get the exposition of when she was younger and living in New Orleans whenever all these disappearances were going on, and now that she's older with her own daughter, and we also get the point of view of the daughter. um and now that it's happening again, it's like, is there personal reasons that this is happening? It's just so fucking good. It's just such an examination of like female rage and like female repression and all of this like injustice and anger. And the way that Christie ends this book is just everything, because it's like I hadn't seen that done before, but there's an odd comfort in the way that she ends it. It's like, well, actually, you are not alone in this. And it's like, wow, what a concept. We are able to analyze female rage to the point where it's not so isolating and there is actual like community around it. It's so freaking cool. I love it so much. And I'll also plug her other book which just came out, which is Dark Sisters. Also very, very good. A little bit of a different narrative there, but told across like three separate timelines. Um, Also explores like women's injustices. If you were looking for an angry female rage book to read, just read Christie's stuff. She's delightful and I love her very, very much. But Such a Pretty Smile is my favorite from her. So
Love that. Yeah, that was a really good book. I Dark Sisters is on my TBR. Everyone says it's incredible,
it's
so
a good one.
I will be
It's a
reading
good
it.
one.
I will be reading it. My last pick is Bleed In, Breathe Out by Brian McCauley, because I've a slasher girly, and there's nothing that warms my heart more than seeing a slasher done right. And this is about a woman who has suffered like the tragic loss of her fiance on a snowy hike. He dies, and she has been emotionally dealing with the fallout from that, and kind of like dealing with it and not dealing with it, and kind of like throwing herself into her work until that isn't going well. And so her friends kind of step in and they're like, hey, I think you need a little break. Like, there's this exclusive spot up in Joshua Tree, and like our friend, our little like yogi friend, has an inn, and can get us in for like a, a week of restorative healing and like yoga and stretching, and like, it could be good for you. It sounds like you need a change of pace. So let's do that. And of course, like, this group of friends we get introduced to is heading out to the desert of Joshua Tree to do this. Of course, like, stuff starts happening slasher style. They do end up getting picked off one by one. But I love the way that we are looking into the wellness industry, and the way that it's been co-opted by capitalism, and the way it has, I was going to say, taken things that don't really belong to it and mashed them together and just kind of like extracted things from here and there. I like that in the big picture sense of things. But what I love is that I can sense the glee that Brian feels when he is writing a kill scene. Like, it is
That's
coming through.
true.
I'm like, this man was smiling at his computer writing this.
That's
Okay.
so true. That's so true.
And they're so just like expertly crafted. And then some of them end on like a little joke zinger, or there's like little hidden zingers in there. I'm like, perfect. This is
You know,
all
he's
art
going like,
and I love it.
right. He puts that line in.
And listen, there was twists in here I did not see
Yeah.
coming. There's like a revelation halfway through where I was like, "Wait,
Yeah.
what?"
There's
And I was like,
there's
"Oh
so much
man."
about this book that I really like. And I really like the personal struggle that I think Hannah is the main character's name that she has with like letting go and like trusting herself and like kind of like am I really seeing like where am I? Like what am I doing and like what's going on? That felt very like the way that Brian wrote that was very very well done and I really enjoyed that. But it's hard to like not have that overshadowed be like the creative kills and like you said the sheer glee you can feel coming off the page when you know like he's like yeah I got that one, you know what I mean?
And you know what? When you're reading it, you're like, "You know
Yep.
what? You did. You should pat yourself on the back. That was good."
Absolutely. Oh, that's another good one. I really, really enjoyed that one. Okay. I'm gonna. I think that you're out of picks now, and I think that
Yeah.
I'm just gonna yap. I'm gonna run through these really, really quickly. What Hunger by Catherine Dang is. There's a trending theme here with cannibalism. It's another cannibalism story, but it's about Ronnie. Her real name's Veronica. I think that her parents immigrated over from Vietnam. Maybe they're Vietnamese. I want to say. And they come to the US, but her and her brother, Ronnie and her brother, are the first like actual US citizens of their family. So there's a weird dynamic in their household between like her and her brother against like the mom and the dad about like who is really of their heritage and stuff like that. And the brother's about to go to college, Ronnie's about to start high school. This like super traumatic. There's like two super traumatic events that happen relatively back to back for Ronnie. And she develops the craving for meat, human meat. And you think that that's a big jump, but the way that Catherine Dang writes it, it is not. It makes so much sense, and it's just a really good book. It's about really having that like carnal desire for like justice when there has been none, or like for sense when there is no sense in something. And I think that that's something that we all can kind of relate to, especially women growing up. Whenever you feel like so out of place and out of sorts, like whether it's with your friend group, with your family, like and there's this whole added component within their household feeling like am I really part of this family or am I not, like where do I belong? All of that kind of just coalesces into this big thing and another like fantastic ending. Yeah, I love this book so so much. I think everybody needs to read it. I'm gonna rattle through my next two picks and then I want to elaborate on my last one. But the next one is Itched by Gemma Amor. This actually comes out in the US in January, but it is already out in the UK. Essentially it's about this woman who has been like kind of having like the year from hell. She moves back home closer to her dad. She takes this like cleaning gig at this hotel or inn and she's walking home one day and she sees a dead body of this girl that's like covered in bugs and she has this kind of like episode and things change after that and this feels very personal to her so she wants to find out what's happening to this girl and then come to find out a series of missing girls, dead girls, and which she finds out is pretty fucking gruesome. Another female ragey book. Another. It's a what Gemma does with it that's really cool. Is she examines like the role of tradition and like if that still serves us in our current state, which is really really an interesting thing to think about. There's so much that just goes right in this book that I fucking love that I think people in the US are going to be really excited to get to whenever they get their hands on it. Um, One more other pick before I start my long plea into or my long rant, my long soapbox is King Sorrow by Joe Hill. You read this one ahead of me, Stephanie. Stephanie. Bleh. Um, and I was like, I don't know, man. It's a long one. I'm not a dragon girly. I don't know if I'll get into this one. Boy, did I. And I read it very quickly. I was very hooked. But it is basically about this group of friends who makes a deal with a dragon to what they think is one time give him the name of one person that they want killed in exchange for their protection by the dragon. Come to find out, it's not a one time gig, it's a forever kind of thing. And it follows them for like 40, 50 years, something like that, as they kind of contend with this deal that they've made and whether or not they can get out of it and all the personal places that all these characters go. My favorite thing about this book is the way that Joe Hill ended it. The final set piece of this was just stunning, and the people that he chose to have part of that set piece just like really spoke volumes to me. So snaps for Joe all around on that one. Loved it. And my last pick, which we will discuss, I finally read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson this year. And boy, what an experience that was.
I loved hearing about this journey.
I was live texting Stephanie as I was reading this book. And if you don't know what The Haunting of Hill House is about, it is about these people that go to this house called Hill House, and they are trying to see if it's really haunted, basically. But things start to happen, and it's yeah, it's just best to kind of go in blind. I mean, like everybody knows the basic premise of it from the Mike Flanagan miniseries, but having seen that before I read the book, I really fucking enjoyed this book. And when I say it's probably one of the most horrific things I've ever read, I don't mean it in the sense of like jump scares or like uh gore, or it is like psychologically so upsetting because Shirley Jackson manages to like pick apart and dismantle this one character bit by bit throughout the whole fucking novel. And you go back on a reread and you're like, it was right in front of me the whole time. And it's just so upsetting and smart and good, and I could talk about this book forever. But
Eleanor is such a just fascinating
yeah.
character, and she gets put through it. And I mean, I find Hill House just so fascinating in itself, and like the lore of its
Yeah.
construction and the way there's just an inherent wrongness down to its foundation, that it's like a purposeful, malevolent,
Yeah, well,
almost
they're like, yeah, well, the
wronginess.
house is
It's
like meant
like,
to fuck with you because it's like 1 degree off in
yeah.
all of its levelness, and it's like that's diabolical. One for a Type A person.
And this woman is already like on the
Yeah,
edge. Like she should not
no,
be.
nobody should, nobody should. But yeah, I get the hype. I think it even exceeded my expectations, and it's one of my favorite books of all time now, and I literally have a tattoo for it now. So
Yeah.
I
Oh, you're
I
colors.
adore this book so much. Queen Shirley Jackson. I get it now. I'm late to the party, but I'm so happy to be here.
We love it.
Yes. But that's all of my picks. So,
Yeah. It's been it's been quite the year. We're like over 2 hours in, but that's just speaking to the books that came out this year, or like the books we read. And now it's time for our final two segments. So, Anna, do you have a chilling obsession?
well, yes, I do, Stephanie. I certainly do have a chilling obsession. And I probably have been harassing with you a little bit about it, because your son is very into this thing. I am deeply obsessed with Stranger Things. Okay. I know there are a lot of people who have a lot of qualms with this show. Are there plot holes? Did it take a long time? Are the kids really fucking old now? Yeah. What about it? I mean, I I just don't care at this point. Like I have been so invested so long in these characters that like it just doesn't matter to me. I'm just along for the ride. Like
Absolutely.
I hear the criticism. I think the criticism is valid, a lot of it, especially when it comes to like how long it feels sometimes or how bloated it feels. But like my argument is that everything that the Duffers do is like in service to their characters for the most part. So as long as they're doing that, I'm a pretty happy camper. Um, but yeah, no, it's a very intense viewing experience for me. I am like clutching my pearls the entire time because I don't want anybody to die. TJ watched the season what we have of season 5 with me and he was like, "How is this enjoyable for you? You've been like sitting like in a curled ball of tension this whole time." And I'm like, "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Don't burst my bubble, okay?" Um so yeah, I'm obsessed with it right now. I ordered like special limited edition sneakers and I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I have another sweatshirt that I have. I just lean really hard into my obsessions and this is what it is right now.
I'm learning this about you with your Katniss phase, your Stranger Things phase. I love this about you.
I just lean really, really hard. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I have like either some kind of like undiagnosed ADHD or like OCD kind of comorbidity where like this girl, when she sinks her teeth into something, holy shit, she does not let go. So yeah, that is a fact about me that once you learn, you can't unlearn it. You can't unsee these things about me. When you start seeing like a lot of stories about the same things, like Stranger Things, The X Files, etc., you'll be like, "Oh, there she goes again." You know,
We love a fan. We love a fan.
we do. And you had given me a rec for a podcast called "You Were Wrong About Too," which I am now obsessed with. Because I listened to the Courtney Love episode that you recommended, and it's lovely. So I'm also kind of obsessed with that at this moment.
Nice. Yeah, I've been a huge You're Wrong About fan for several years. Michael Hobbs left the show like a few years ago and like he went on to start like two other podcasts and I don't know, throughout like there's always something to listen to and if you're like coming in now, there is such a backlist because she did like for a while a series on like maligned women of the 90s, which was my favorite. She did like Courtney Love, she did like Anna Nicole Smith, she did like Amy Fisher, like what you think versus what really happened.
Well, I just listened to their cattle mutilation episode because as if I couldn't get enough of all of this, I just needed some cattle mutilation in my life. And it was so interesting, super interesting. So I highly recommend that podcast if people are
Yeah.
looking for something to listen to.
It's good if you're like a fun fact girl like I
Yeah,
am. So
we love fun facts, fun factoids. Do you want to share what you're chillingly obsessed with in this moment as well
yeah,
to close out the year?
actually tangentially related to You're Wrong About. So in the early episodes of You're Wrong About, when Sarah Marshall would introduce herself, she would say like, "Hi, I'm Sarah Marshall. I'm currently writing a book about the Satanic Panic." And then for a while, she like took that off of her intro, so everyone was like, "Okay, what happened to that?" Um, but then this year, she dropped a mini series with CBC called The Devil You Know, where she interviewed people that were specifically impacted by the satanic panic. Because I think we tend to look at it from like a macro cultural scale of like what
Yeah,
was going on in the country and trends and law enforcement. And she interviewed like Louis Pastor's ex-wife, which if you don't know, Louis Pastor was married before he took on Michelle as a therapist client, and then
yeah,
left his wife for her. So
yeah. It's a
food for
little
thought.
messy. Yeah.
But Michelle Remembers is kind of widely seen as the book that launched the satanic panic and this idea of like repressed memories and satanic rituals and just the idea that you can recover these repressed memories and that there's like legitimacy to
I
them.
think I actually learned about that in grad school now that we've talked about it. I think that we like learned about like cuz we were talking about like the fallibility of like eyewitness testimony and stuff
Yeah,
and like suggestibility and stuff like that. And I think that we talked about something similar to that if not that. So I need to go and listen to all that cuz that's super fascinating to me. This will be my next hyperfixation and if you see me post about it all the time, it's Stephanie's fault. So,
sorry. It's at least it's like an 8 episode like mini series, and then she kind of has like a few kind of off episodes where she
yeah.
interviews like random people, but it's like a set number. It's not like you have 100 episode backlist. It's like, it's a clean,
That feels
set,
manageable. Yeah, feels
finite
manageable.
number of episodes. Um, so yeah, into that. But I think now it's time to get into the second tradition, which is, Anna, what is your final girl song?
You know, it feels like with the year that we've had, and mostly thanks to your influence of your project of listening to all of the albums that you did like this project where you went through and you listened to a whole bunch of like influential albums. Um, and one of them was Hole's Live Through This. And then it got me like really into Hole. And then I just like went down the Courtney Love rabbit hole, and I am a really big fan now. So I actually have like two-ish picks that I wish I could like morph together into one. And it's kind of like I want Miss World and Doll Parts to be like one song, and I feel like that would make a final girl song. Like from Doll Parts is like the Someday You Will Ache Like I Ache, like making somebody experience the hurt that you do. But like the kind of like persecution in this world, like somebody kill me, like that energy feels very intensely femininely mad, and that feels like unique to a final girl song. But also, bonus segment, you could just pick any song from Florence and the Machine's new album. Particularly Everybody Scream is like just a fucking brilliant song. I mean, that's the one that everybody's talking about. It's not very much like on brand for a final girl song with like the like lyrically, but in terms of the sound of it, I mean, like what is more primal to a final girl than her scream, right? So like it thematically I feel like it fits, and I've just been listening to the hell out of that album. So I gave you multiple choices basically. Pick what you will.
Oh my god, seconding both. Yeah, that was such a fun project. I didn't even talk about that on this episode, but you know what? We do not have time. Ask you about that another time. uh yeah, Holes Live Through This, 10 out of 10 album. Uh so seconding that, I have been obsessed with Everybody Scream by Florence and the Machine. It is just so raw
Yeah.
in the best way. And I think one of my favorites is One of the Greats. There's like
Mhm.
a specific part of the song that just like scratches my brain like so perfectly. And it's when she says, "But I've really done it this time. This one is all mine. I'll be up there with the man and the 10 other women and the 100 greatest records of all time. And it must be nice to be a man and make boring music just because you can." And I'm like,
God,
the
it's
way she
so
says that,
good. It's
first of
so
all,
fucking
bar,
good.
but just like the way she says it, I'm like, oh, just
I
scratches it
know.
perfectly.
I love how confrontational she is about like the shit that she's dealing with. She's never one to hide away with whatever she's dealing with, right? But like there's so much style and finesse to what she does that it's like, oh my god, it's just so fucking good. And she just like is so captivating, like both visually, like with her music, like the to see her perform, and then like obviously when you listen to her, it's god, she just feels like so magical, like truly feels magical.
Absolutely. Oh, and I do love when she gets confrontational about like what people are saying about rock and the state of things and how there's a void. Because in like Dance Fever, even she had a lyric
Mhm.
where she's like, "And you say that rock and roll is dead, but is that just because it has not been resurrected in your image?" I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Say
Uh,
less, actually. We'll just give the whole mic to you and let you run things now, Florence, please, for the love of God.
but just like there's so much range in Everybody Scream too, because then
Yeah.
Buckle is kind of like
Mhm.
a a pining like I miss you post
It
breakup song that's
is.
heartbreaking.
It's like a but it's so like it's like melancholic, I guess, and like in a subtle lower rhythmic way. Like I feel like Everybody's Screen is very like high intensity, and Buckle doesn't sound that way, but when you listen to the lyrics, you're like punched in the
Oh,
chest,
yeah.
like it has that intensity. It just doesn't hit you over the head with it the same way. And so I just think her duality with that is so fucking cool.
Absolutely. Ugh. And then You Can Have It All, I think dealing with her like topic pregnancy
Mhm.
and she's just so raw. I mean, raw is the only word that comes to mind. It's just incredible.
Look, it's on brand with my love of cannibalism this year, is all I can say. I am nothing if not on brand, as I am sticking to a theme. and you
Perfect.
all are perceiving this about me now. So
Mm-hmm.
act accordingly.
Perfect. We love it. Well, those are great. My song,
Yeah, I want to hear yours.
my song in comparison is I was just gonna do a gym staple for me. You know, a song that gets me through all the reps at the gym, and that is "Duality" by Slipknot. Vibe wise,
Fucking love that for you.
a little different, but I mean, literally, the song is about like a being in pain and like working through it. Literally, the inspiration for the song was like the migraines that the lead singer would deal with. Because it's like, he's like, I push my fingers into my eyes to like alleviate this pain.
Oh,
But
yeah. Oof.
it's about like bearing down and kind of accepting all these parts of yourself to be whole. So in my movie, it's like a final girl who's kind of been like denying a certain aspect of herself, and she picks up some type of implement related to that to use it to fight.
And you also add another increment of weights on the weight machine at the same time. I love it. I do love a good song that gets me fired up. Like I do love a good invigorating song. And if Slipknot is the answer to that, then so be it, man. Like a few years ago for her last album, she had a song that like when I would run, I was like, this is a good running song. And I can't remember what it is now. I'm gonna blank out on it, but I get it. I get the feeling of being like, yeah, I can do it. If
You
he
know
can
what?
solve his migraine problems, I can lift this weight.
Okay, but yeah, imagine a fight scene to just like an increasing, like, all I've got is insane. And it's just like getting louder and crazier. I'm like,
I think that you should take up metal music, Stephanie, is what I think you should do. That was really good. That was really good.
yeah. Well, everyone, that concludes our best of 2025 episode. Anna, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
Oh God, I'm everywhere. It's harder.
You're like, where am I not, honestly?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's harder to stay away from me, I think, than it is to like seek me out. I am on Instagram as Anna Rose Reads with like Anna.Rose_Reads. I think everywhere else I'm Anna Rose Reads with just underscores. I wanted to keep using the period, but somebody else took that handle somewhere along the line. So I'm on Blue Sky. I am on Threads. I am still on Twitter/X for my sports gossip, which has been beneficial this week. We have talked about it. I've had
Yeah,
sources.
as a U of M
Um,
girly, it's been interesting.
yes, it's been a week. So yeah, I'm on TikTok. I'm not as active on TikTok, but I'm there. Yeah, I have a Substack. That's my podcast is everywhere. Anna Rose Reads the podcast where I do my author interviews. That's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Yeah, again, harder to stay away from me, I think, than to find me, honestly. So
Like you're like a vampire. Like once we invite you in, you're just
you cannot get rid of me,
no.
actually. Good luck. That is a challenge.
Well, thank you again.
No, thank you for having me. Like literally when I get to chat, one, like getting to chat about all this is great, but like also with you. We have very
Yeah.
similar tastes. So it's always a really fun time. But we do have like a few differences and it makes it very, very fun to like talk about what we're into and everything like that. So this like is just a treat to get to spend however much time this is, 2.5 hours talking like this, like truly made my weekend. So thank you very much.
Oh my god, it absolutely made mine too.
That's so sweet.
Books in the Freezer is a bi weekly podcast. We post episodes every other Tuesday. You can find us on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Books in the Freezer, or send us an email at booksinthefreezer@gmail.com. Show notes for this episode can be found at booksinthefreezer.com or in the episode description for this episode, where I have listed all of the books mentioned with links to my bookshop.org shop, where you can support not only this podcast, but also an independent bookstore. I have been your host, Stephanie Gagne. Thank you so much for spending 2025 with me, and I am looking forward to seeing you all again in 2026. So thank you again for listening, and see you next time on Books in the Freezer.